Struggling to get your business online? At Domains2U, we make it easy with fast domain registration, powerful web hosting, and top-tier security solutions. Our hosting solutions ensure speed, security, and reliability with 99.9% uptime and daily backups. Find the perfect domain name and get online in minutes. Get started today at domains2u.com.au.
Well, a very good evening to you, race fans, and welcome to round 4 of the Domains2U MCV8s series presented by MC Motorsport and, of course, broadcast right here on Simple Racing Broadcast. And tonight, round 4 finds us at the all-new The Bend, the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park for the first endurance round of the season. 90 minutes of racing ahead of us. It should be an interesting one because we've had rain before the race tonight. Drivers still out in it at the moment. We're not expecting any during the race, but that does mean a drying track and changing conditions, which will bring on a whole new element for the drivers to deal with here tonight. My name is Jared Cole. I'm joined in the booth by Dean Biggles Hopton. And Biggles, welcome back. It's time for some enduro racing, mate.
That it is, my friend. As you can currently see, big 90 minutes, an hour and a half of, changeable conditions, let's say, here this evening. So it'll be truly testing the mindset of these gladiators.
No, it absolutely will. Before we get into that, of course, the race not set to start until 8 p.m. at local time. We do want to bring you a little bit of vision from the top 10 shootout yesterday, and we thought we'd what better time than to get it started here before the race. So let's get straight to it. Let's take a look at the results from the top 10 shootout. And Biggles, much better conditions for this shootout yesterday. The sun out, the birds singing, all that kind of stuff. And probably where the drivers would have preferred to be, I suspect, after showing up the track today.
Yeah, let's see which drivers are going to be singing, of course, when they get themselves on the front row, as we're looking at Sponge Bobby, Ryan Palmer, Sponge Butt Helmet, of course.
Himself. Himself. Yep. First out on track, managed to get into the top 10 for the shootout. The only amateur cup driver to actually manage that this time around. So he's got some big boots to fill to mix it with the big boys, but straight into it and immediately trying to get his best out of the Chevy. Interesting to see the mix of Chevys and Fords in this championship. It's pretty level pegging, honestly, in terms of the pace we're seeing in practice tonight, at least. But the shootout, a bit of a different story, as we see Palmer goes a 34.3 in Sector 1, 23.3 in Sector 2. One of the disadvantages, I suppose, of this shootout format, if you're first out on track, you really don't have any idea whether you're cracking on at a pace that is going to be even remotely competitive, right? It's a bit of a shot in the dark. You've just got to put down your best time without stepping off track and ruining your shot at it.
Exactly, just go with the mindset that you're a second down from an invisible pole time at the moment. So you gotta just chuck it in there. Just do what you do best. You've done it through your practice over and over again. Just nail the racing line. You can see a little wiggle going into the turn, but it's still on the power. Don't think it'll scrub too much time off at the moment. Spotting the apex as well too, staying off the deep chicane. I think it'll be a good time. I think Ryan Palmer should be pretty impressed at that time as well. At the moment, I don't see any major mistakes, using as much of the exit as possible.
Can't argue with that. So the first time on the board, 153.7 from Palmer. Look, not bad. We did see some pretty quick 53s, and I think maybe even a 52 in qualifying times, getting into the low 52s perhaps. So look, it's respectable. I'll give him that much. James Salhani will be the next one out on track from SLM Motorsport as he makes his way around on his warm-up lap. Big hello to none other than Ryan Palmer in the chat right now. So just hanging out and getting a bit of a review of his own performance there. And a big old welcome to the big boss and Harry Dodds. Hope you're both doing well. It is, yes, certainly moist out there at the moment. I don't know how long the water will stay on track. I reckon we'll probably have a good 15 or 20 minutes of fairly interesting conditions to start the race this evening. But yeah, beyond that, I'm always curious to see just how much of a dry line actually appears. No such issues during the shootout, of course. Salhani enjoying a very, very dry track as he heads out. Let's see what he gets in Sector 1 here as we start to approach that marker. Ryan Palmer, of course, a reasonably comfy kind of Sector 1, looked pretty well organised. And indeed, Salhani much slower through the first sector, almost 4/10 off the pace. So has Palmer actually put in a really hot lap here? This will be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Now there is a benchmark course of the 53.7 set. Salami down on that one. Needs to get some work done there. Does make some improvements in Sector 2, as you can currently see in your pictures. So,
Still a little
little
behind,
error
though.
first, but he's got 2 more to make up for that
Yeah, I
gap
suppose
at
if you're
the
going to
moment.
be down, you want to be down in the first sector, right? Gives you 3 to still play with before you get
Exactly.
across the line. Salhani, though, looking, again, fairly tidy. This is always the balance in a shootout format, isn't it? You want to push on and rack up the best time that you can, but at the same time, you've got to be very conscious about the track limits because you only get 1 lap to do this.
Yeah, I used to like it back in the Formula 1 when they used to do that 1-lap shootout, but it's difficult with the changeable conditions, of course, that occur, because that's not too bad for these cars, you'd imagine, and these conditions, but as tentative as a Formula 1 car, you know, can make a huge difference. But you can see even Stevens essentially on Sector 3. Now can he make up for it Sector 4? A little wiggle on the exit. That means he's put the power down early.
Well, that's
Really
a
wants to
big
make an
gain
improvement.
there.
Yes.
That's going to be close. Just barely, just under a
91
tenth quicker.
thousandths.
Very, very smooth
he goes.
indeed. G'day, Smashing Apex. How you doing, my friend? David Coleman from Fishy Motorsport now gets out on track. So a little way to go before he hits the start-finish line and starts his flying lap here. Coleman, of course, no stranger to the Gen 3 supercars or V8 supercars broadly. The Fishy Motorsports guys making it a mainstay of their racing team for a number of seasons now. So Coleman, a bit of pressure on him perhaps to live up to the Fishy namesake.
Yeah, Coleman's coming off a great previous round as well too, so with a chunk of points on the bag there, boosting himself actually 12 places up into P8 in the current standings as well too, so you've got to get that momentum going here for the number 1 machine.
Speaking of, that second last corner, just a little moment, tap of the brakes, just getting a little untidy. That's going to potentially affect his straight line speed, so look out for perhaps a slower Sector 1 here than he was maybe anticipating. See all the drivers using that pit exit as part of their run down towards turn 1. Hard on the brakes, sweeping right-hander, and then immediately back again. The bend is really going to test the tyres on a Gen 3 supercar. They're not really super keen on high-speed, long corners, and the bend has plenty of them here on the international circuit. Coleman, though, doing the best that he can to get those tyres operating the way that he expects. Sector 1, we're expecting it to be a bit slower. It's actually much quicker than Salhani's, almost 2.5 tenths cut off Salhani's. So despite the little moment just at the end of his warm-up lap, Coleman's come out swinging.
He's chucked it into that corner as well too. You can see the speed carrying the momentum and little resistance as possible. Smooth in, smooth out. That's exactly what's mentioned out there in the chat. And that's how you nail the perfect lap at the bend or any track really at the end of the day. You see even Stevens when it comes to that Sector 2. He'll be fine with that at the moment. He'll be looking at his delta knowing, all right, I'm on for a good lap here. Could certainly still pole if he can keep up this momentum.
Trying to just push that corner exit hard on the brakes. You see the nose dive as he tries to pull it up for this sequence. It is a tough one, a little bit of a crest right in the middle of that corner, and then you're up and over another crest for this right-hander. And it really does throw these cars off balance. You see the wiggle on the way out. He's lost another 1.5 here. This is going to be close, I reckon. I'm just trying to do the numbers quickly. He's going to have to make sure he has a really good Sector 4 to actually come out ahead of Palmer as well.
Yeah, it might not be enough. A little bit of mistake.
Ooh,
It
that's
is a
gonna be
little bit of a
tight.
mistake, actually. Just feels that it could have been a little bit of overdrive. Still close, as you can see.
1/1000th of a
Absolutely
second.
amazing.
Ryan Palmer will be cheering. Just barely quicker than the first of the Fishy Motorsport entries. Jamie Dyke now coming out to have a crack at it as well.
Yeah, I think DC will be a little disappointed on that because he started out the momentum good, and it just, I don't know, it looked like he was really pushing it, but perhaps pushing a little bit too much, and thus overdriving the car a little bit and scrubbing a little bit of speed.
Oh, we've got a bit of a moment with our footage. Bear with us, folks. We'll try and get that
Jared's kids are coming to hit the pause button.
sorted out. There
Right,
we go.
there we go.
We're good. We're fine. everything's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here, folks. Jamie Dyke.
Jamie, well, you're about to see Jamie Dyke put on a fast lap, of
suppose,
course, for
yeah.
Fishy
That's worth
Motorsports.
watching.
His teammate just came out there at DC and put one in. Let's see what Jamie Dyke, man, 5th in the championship hunt as well, too, for the Ford Mustang.
Yeah, certainly another very quick driver when it comes to the Gen 3 supercars. Just receiving word from race control, we've actually had a 15-minute delay to tonight's race event and a need to switch server, so I'll have to have a look into what's going on there, but we'll get that sorted in the background here, folks. This is one of the joys of a shootout the day prior. Gives us a little bit of time to figure this out, but do expect a bit of a delay here on the stream as we wait for the new server to come up. I don't know about you, Beagles, but I don't know if I can find 15 minutes of nothing to talk about. We might take a bit of a break between the shootout and the race event, hey?
Yeah, well, the drivers have been there. The drivers have been out there practicing in those wet conditions, which is the track is drying currently at the moment. So it'll be interesting with the new race server how those
what do we get?
Conditions will be, because it is set on like a random players, I believe. I have to check that, but get back to you
ordinarily
on that.
yes. Yeah. However, the league admins have decided to do a slightly more controlled approach to the weather for this one to ensure that we've got the right mix of conditions. Unfortunately, when you do let iRacing take control of the forecasted weather, you get some really unpredictable results with rain. It tends to be absolutely nothing or absolutely pouring.
And fog too, where you can't see the cars at all
fog.
on helicopter cam, which is just a nightmare for broadcasting.
Yeah, Jamie Dyke just a little bit ahead of Salhani's time at the moment. Final sector now. Can he bring it home? But yeah, look, the league admins always want to try and replicate real-world forecasts as close as possible. When it comes to the patchy rain that's been around in South Australia today, the easiest way to do that is with a bit more of a manual control. Dyke goes
to be close.
There we go. 300. Yeah, that's, look, it's still close. There's not a lot in it so far, is there?
Nope. Absolutely pretty impressive times, you'd have to say, from all of these drivers so far, as we're going to see Kyle Ridley. Man, that's running... where is Kyle that I was looking at before?
He's a contender.
Yeah, Kyle's 7th in the championship currently at the moment, just had DC. So, we'll see for the SLM Motorsport entrance how he's going to be handling Ben, my friend. Then another Ford Mustang. Sorry, really, Chevy. Sorry, Ford Mustang, that's right.
Mustang, you're right. The Bend is definitely a very tricky track to get your head around in these cars. I've taken great pleasure in talking about how much I love the Bend, and arguing with our good friend Josh Harris, commentator here with Simple Racing Broadcast, but also a driver in this series. He has not found the same enjoyment at the Bend that I have in the GT4s. Apparently the Gen 3 is just a tad more difficult to get around here, and I'm not actually that surprised.
So far, it's Ford 1-2. So whether or not, as you can see, he's a little bit up in Sector 1, pretty much even Stevens with Dyke on that.
It's a good sector though from Ridley.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be a Ford track? I wonder.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking at the moment. We'll see, obviously, if anybody can chuck the Chevy in there.
And of course, because you'll I'm sure be quick to note that the Fords still have to actually survive 90 minutes of racing without.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Motors.
We know the Chevy drivers are aware that the Fords will have a good chance of blowing up.
Another 10th in Sector 2. Kyle Ridley on a really, really quick lap right now. Jamie Dyke probably biting the nails a little bit at this point. Just a minor misstep through the turn there. That's cost Ridley almost a 10th back the other way. G'day, Aiden. Hope you're doing well, my friend. So Ridley, look, probably just about half a 10th ahead of Dyke here. He's going to need a really good final sector. That little wiggle's going to cost him some pace. I don't know if he's going to get this. There's nothing in it, though. One more turn. Let's see if Ridley can take the top of the leaderboard here as we reach the halfway point of our top 10 shootout. Comes across the line. Oh, that final sector hurting him a lot. 2/10 off. And unfortunately enough to drop him all the way back to 5th. Not much in it. We're still talking less than 2/10 across the 5 drivers. But Thomas Hin's here to see what he can do. Now, Thomas, you've got to hand it to him, Biggles. Jumping back and forth between open wheelers and Gen 3 supercars at the moment. He's racing here tonight in this Gen 3 season. And Thursday night's getting into the F4s for the Formula Drivers League. So a pretty broad variety of cars that Thomas Hinz is very familiar with based on his result. Down to turn 1, heavy on the brakes. Look, it's been good to see so far. All of the drivers keeping it within limits. I don't think we've seen a puff of tyre smoke yet at turn 1, so just keeping a little bit up the sleeve here, I think. Clouds coming across shouldn't affect it too much. We're not expecting...
We've got a weather situation at the moment that we can show. Not
in terms of current weather at the track.
Yes.
We are just waiting on the new session to load up. So
no, I mean during this
session. One. Look,
yeah,
afternoon session. Can't recall the exact temperatures for this one, but fine. Few clouds around, no moisture. Reasonable.
Just wondering the track temperature has how much it changes as we shoot through the cars. Probably not a lot. It doesn't look like it's changing that much. But,
so Hin's up by about a 10th now overall through the first 2 sectors. There's really not much in this so far, Biggles.
No, sir, not at all. Which is exactly what we like to see.
Don't we just? Let's see what Sector 3 brings. Well, you'd call that even money, wouldn't you? 2.5 hundredths. So just barely ahead of Jamie Dykes' time. Has got about 7 hundredths up the sleeve. Gonna have to be quick here.
Well, considering the man's second in the championship, but of course it is only one lap, and everybody can make a mistake on one lap, but I think these drivers are approaching it with a little bit of caution, but still going flat out as much as they can. As you said, one little error, of course, and you've gone from essentially the penthouse to the outhouse as he crosses the line.
Speaking of, there's that 1/10.5 off there.
There it is.
Good enough to slot him into 3rd currently. Only just more than a half-tenth off Jamie Dykes' time, but Jamie Dyke looking pretty comfy up there with a 53.5 at this stage. Brett Loxton, hasn't he been quick so far this season?
Yeah, was championship leader at the moment, 8 starts, 5 podiums.
Yeah, for good reason.
A big chunk of points there. He's got 39 points actually over to Thomas that you just saw before, but the Team Jink Shifters are 1 and 2 at the moment. Let's see. At the moment, they're not going to be 1 and 2 on the front row of the upcoming race. However, I'll see if I can get one of those Team Jink Shifters cars on the front row. Will it be this man?
Well, you'd have to think so, given his performance so far this season, but of course, 1 lap to do it. He's a long way behind on the warm-up lap compared to a lot of the other drivers, maybe spending just a little bit more time getting those tyres up to temp on the outlap. As he crosses the line, and it kicks off. So Sector 1. Again, very, very smooth, cutting almost onto the grass over those curbs. Bang on with Jamie Dyke. So we've seen a couple of the other drivers go a little bit faster than Dyke. Loxton not finding anything extra there at the moment. You can see him just the rear end squirming through the turns as they try and get that power to the ground. We'll call that dead even so far. Can he pick up some more time?
Well, it'll be interesting as well too, because the track has been wet during the practice session. The new session's up as well too, and they've still got similar conditions for that. They haven't been seeing any of these times that they've done during the shootout, so
no, absolutely not.
It's going to be an interesting race. It should dry up, I'd say, for the start of the race, but I don't know if it'll be dry enough to be in these conditions. Chucking that corner.
Loses all of the gains through Sector 2, but you know what? Worth it for that shot. Gets the arse end hanging out sideways as he comes out of the corner. Just a little bit aggressive on that loud pedal. And we're back to pretty well even Stevens with Jamie Dykes' time. Just a couple corners to go here. That was very, very tidy from Loxton. Taps the apex on the way out of the corner. Can he do it? Has he recovered enough here in Sector 4? Oh, that's going to be
mighty sector.
So close. There it is.
Bang.
Takes the top. 0.064 quicker than Jamie Dyke. So 53.5 looking at pretty good time.
Yeah, it could have been 53. It could have been 53.3. Or a
if he
53
hadn't had that
4,
big
I'd say
moment.
we've had that big moment. So we know a little bit more time to fight on that one. And the other drivers should be aware of that too, saying that that pole's still certainly very much up for grabs.
It absolutely is.
Now, Will's got to get out there and prove it for the Chevys here at the moment, mate, because they've been dominated by the Mustangs, you can see on your pictures. And Will, being the man that's third in the championship, knows how to chuck a Chevy around some cars and knows how to lock it up as well too. Whoops, let's see how he's going to be able to recover from this one, as you said.
Just a little bit of extra temperature into that front left.
Yeah, no flat spot modelling yet in iRacing, but
You'll be
we'll see
thankful
them
for that,
implement that.
Let's see what Buchanan's got up his sleeve for Sector 1 after that. You've got to think, what, a half-second slower?
I'd say so, yeah. I mean...
Oh, a full second
a
slower
full
through Sector 1. Oh, that
yeah.
stings.
He's going to be on damage limitation right now, and hopefully get himself probably maybe around Ryan Palmer's times at best.
A lot to recover though. He's down a second on Loxton at the moment, which puts him well outside the times we've seen so far. Loses another half a tenth there. This is
exactly why we love one lap shootouts, my friend, because even the best drivers can all make mistakes.
They can have a moment, absolutely. Look, the worst case scenario for Buchanan right now is qualifying 10th, which is not terrible, and it's a 90-minute enduro, so...
Well, especially perhaps for changeable conditions as well, too. You get to see, I mean, we did see Hockenberg get his first podium in changeable conditions, didn't we, in Formula 1?
Very true. Very true. Quarter of a second pulled back in Sector 3, so a nice quick one there. See if you can do the same in Sector 4 and make something respectable out of this. Been a rough lap for poor old Will Buchanan. That turn 1 lock-up costing him a huge amount of time, and he'll be shaking his head at what could have been, I reckon. Almost another tenth out of it, but that does put him a long way down.
Yeah, good recovery at the end of the day, being a whole second off.
Getting it back to 6/10 is not bad.
Bringing it back to 6/10, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll give him some credit for that, for sure.
Pete won't be happy with it, but I'd say you can only make do with what the situation is as it unfolds. Yeah, you got to improvise. Thomas Wilson, currently the man on the track, man, fourth in the championship hunt here for the Sideways Esports. Now, he's in a Ford Mustang, which are looking strong here currently at the moment, so he should be able to see all those drivers in the same cars he's in, capable of whether or not he can get himself into that nice 53 club where all the drivers, I'd be happy to be in a 52 club actually, but that's going to be pulling half a second quicker than everybody else.
Well, let's see what he's got as he makes his way down the front straight here at the bend. Full noise past the pit lane where the other competitors are waiting. Over to the edge of the track, hard on the brakes, no lock up this time from Wilson.
So
up and on the curb.
Yeah, can scrub a bit of speed off there. He'll be happy at the moment, and he's probably actually out there practicing, because of course this was from yesterday, but these drivers are slipping and sliding all over the place currently at the moment in the practice session.
Not surprised.
I've seen more cars in the kitty litter than I am actually on the track. So,
well, that's a quick first sector. 2.5 tenths cut out of Loxton's time. Oh, big moment there. Thomas Wilson gets the power down, lights the rear up and slides it out. He wants to get moving. Hopefully that hasn't cost him too much.
Well, you know what, he runs for Sideways Esport, my friend. He wants to just chuck this car sideways. And
it's just marketing at this point, isn't it?
Yep, he's back to 0 on this one. So was up and he's down, similar. So I'd say he's almost identical. So you just scratch that Sector 1 and Sector 2 out of the books there and just think about Sector 3 and 4 right now. That's all he can do. And if he can make improvements in Sector 3 and Sector 4, he'll certainly be looking good for a front row.
Well, that's another good sector, another 2.5 tenths there in 3. If he can just hold off from doing the same in Sector 4 as he did in 2, he's on for a really quick time here. Let's see what he's got. Bit of a wiggle on the way down the hill. Very, very hard to keep these cars balanced, particularly with almost no fuel in the tank.
Well, that's good. That's a good apex there. Didn't get right up onto the rumble strip. So I reckon he'd be looking good here for a 53.3.
53.3. He's going to be
My
pretty close to that,
predictions.
isn't he?
Yep.
Another half a tenth off, and 53.177.
Wow.
That's a quick time, and we are getting closer and closer to seeing 52s. Last driver now. Daniel McCrowan, the privateer entry. Camaro, already the odds stacked against him from what we've seen so far.
Yes, they seem to be, don't they? So he's got to get up there and chuck the Camaro in there. Dan, who's sixth currently running in the championship for a privateer, needs a team.
Yeah, he was on board with the team at the start of the season. That team relationship dissolving, I believe, at round 2. So he's continuing on as a privateer entry here. And look, still finding someone to do some decent liveries for him. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. Cars at the moment in the practice session are doing a Vestas lap of 204s. These guys in qualifying and dry tracks are doing 53s, as you can see.
But 10 seconds of difference in the wet. This is going to be a very, very interesting start to our racing tonight. Just waiting on McCrowan. Okay, so almost 2/10 down through Sector 1. This isn't looking good so far. G'day, Scott. Yeah, I reckon parity issue is probably...
He might need the wet conditions because, believe it or not, Daniel is the quickest driver in the practice session in the wet conditions. So let's see.
The quickest so far.
Yeah.
Pulls it back in Sector 2, though. So back on even pegging with Wilson's time. Seems to be the story through Sector 1 and Sector 2 here at the bend. What you gain in the first, you lose in the second, or vice versa. Something about the driving line, perhaps, on the transition between the two sectors. Down another 10th here. What do you reckon, Biggles? I'm going to say...
It's going to be close. Could be very close here. Might.
He's down about a 10th at the moment. I reckon a 53.3 is on the cards. We're going to come down to these last couple of corners, of course.
It'll be
nice.
whether or not he can
Apex there.
split Thomas and Brett. I don't think he's going to take it to Thomas's time, but he'll be able to take it to Loxton's.
A much slower Sector 4, 3/10 off there. Puts it into
does it?
fourth.
Yeah. But the fastest of the Chevys.
Yeah, fastest of the Chevys, and the entire top 10 split by less than a second overall. So a very, very competitive top 10 shootout there yesterday, folks. And that will set the front of the grid for tonight's racing. Thomas Wilson and Brett Loxton will line up on row 1. Ahead of Jamie Dyke, Danny McCrowan, then Selhani and Hims, Palmer and Coleman, Ridley and Buchanan will be your top 10, which we will, of course, remind you of shortly. Oh, it's a shame you can't make it tonight, Scott, but you are missing out on some less than ideal conditions, which are not a bad thing to be avoiding, I suspect.
Oh, you can't make it to Team Jinx shifters 1, 2, and 3 there, Scotty. Well, you can actually. You got if Henry King's out there, Aaron Gilbert's out there. Yeah,
there's a few of them out there. Anything's possible. Tell you what, the weather conditions not looking phenomenal. Have a look at the wind speeds here tonight. 63 k's an hour. It is blowing a gale out there. It'll be interesting to see just which direction that's coming from as they make their way down the main straight, because that will certainly result in some slower lap times here across the 90 minutes of racing that we do have for you this evening, folks. It's going to be an interesting one. 80 litre fuel tank limit, and from a few back of the napkin type maths I was doing earlier on, Biggles, you're pretty well looking at about 20 laps out of that fuel tank, which means that this could be a single stopper. It'd require some pretty incredible fuel saving to do it.
Just wondering what your pit stop time, how much do you lose in your pit stops?
Oh, look, I honestly haven't seen a race pace pit stop, but you'd have to think, look, it's not a super long pit lane, probably about 30 or 40 seconds of transit time.
36 maybe total. I've seen somebody going in and out at 36. That was Ian Ward, but we have no idea if he took any fuel or tyres as well.
We'll have to wait and see. The sun's shining.
They're on wet tyres at the moment, so yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. The sun's shining here at Talon Bend. We've got about another 15 minutes or so before racing gets underway with the delays here this evening. You can see the reflections from the track of just all the standing water still out there that these drivers haven't quite cleared, although thankfully a lot of it on parts of the track that won't be used tonight. Let's take a look at the championship standings before we get into this evening, based on last round's results. And Brett Loxton, as you said, out in front, not a massive lead, but certainly starting to extend the lead a little bit, followed by his teammate Thomas Hinz in second, Will Buchanan in third on 536, Thomas Wilson 527, and then a pretty close battle there for fourth, with Wilson, Dyke and McCrowan only separated by 6 points. Kyle Ridley in seventh on 512, ahead of David Coleman on 503, with Jackson Starrett on 492 a bit further back, and 483 for Ryan Palmer rounds out your top 10. So still a fairly close race after 3 rounds. Of course, drop rounds to be considered each and every round at the moment, so it does shift a little bit from week to week. But we will keep an eye on it this evening and see. I don't know what sort of difference it's going to make. I mean, based on that qualifying, it's pretty close to the top 10 you see there. And of course, 90 minutes of endurance racing is a very different prospect to the sprint races these drivers have seen so far, Biggles.
Absolutely. It's going to be a very, very interesting situation with these drivers, because you're going to be sitting in that racing rig for an hour and a half. You're going to get your strategy right. Of course, you've got to try to keep yourself out of trouble there, because you don't want to be on the damage clock.
No, exactly right. When we take a look at the AM Cup standings, though, a very, very different story. Ryan Palmer and Josh Harris from ADHD Racing absolutely dominating so far, 483 and 468 points respectively. Really not even close at the moment for the AM Cup, and I don't think we'll be seeing the ADHD boys in the AM Cup next season. Daniel Harrod, Matt Bakir and Luke Speck all battling it out for the last step on that podium, but Harrod starting to build a little bit of a lead there as well. Nathan Bowman and Ronald Long a little further back, sort of fighting it out really for P6, and then a fair gap between the rest of our AM Cup drivers through to Greg Patrick back on 116 points. So not even close to first and second. It'll be interesting to see how Palmer and Harris face off, though, across the rest of the season.
I can't wait, and I can't wait to see how this race is going to pan out. In approximately about 10 minutes or so, the practice session should be finishing up, and as well as the track will be drying up slightly too. But that wind speed's still there. It's about 60, currently at the moment, about 60 kilometers an hour northeasterlies, and it will drop down.
That is a lot of wind.
In about 30 minutes, it'll drop down to about still 47 or so kilometers per hour winds, and then as we progress into the race, the winds will start calming down as well. But I'm sure the racing action will start heating up.
It does mean, of course, that the rain has cleared pretty quickly. We've already seen it move off the radar, and so not expecting it to really rain again for the rest of the evening. And with that sort of wind speed, you'd expect a fairly quick drying track as well. So that will be at least some relief to the drivers. I'm sure they won't have too much to worry about out on track. We might just take a bit of a look around and see just what's happening out there at the moment. You can see still quite a lot of spray as the drivers are putting in these practice laps, but it's a little bit of a dry line starting to just become visible at this
stage. Have a look, because currently at the moment it's the crossover point right now between the dries and the wets. So if you want to go to the quickest driver on the track, that's James Sahani in the 188 Ford. He's on the dry tyres. So he's just one of the few drivers that have gambled out on those tyres. He's not currently out there on the track at the moment, unfortunately, but unless he's just sitting in pit lane with those dry tyres. I don't know if he did set that's for fastest time in the practice session on that, but the rest of the drivers are still out there mainly on those wets. Just saying, maybe Ronald Long is out there on dry tyres.
Oh, Ridley, look at this. This is Ridley on dry tyres right now. You saw him in the top 10 shootout. I don't think the track is quite dry enough yet.
Ready. No. And Ronald's off in the kitty litter as well too. So that, luckily it's a practice session, so you're not going to lose anything from your gamble. You can see it's just drifting it around the corner. But It's interesting because once the track starts drying up, he might get a few more practice laps under his belt there by remaining on these dry tyres.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible, but like even comparing that to what we've just seen in the shootout, the amount of pace that he's knocking off there to get through turn one of those dries is significant. You can tell by looking at it that it's a long way off the pace still. I'm going to be very surprised if anyone starts on dry tyres. But that said, you know, you've got to get through. You've got to get through about 20 laps on a tank. That's sort of what you can expect from most of these drivers, somewhere in the region of 20 laps. We're expecting, again, depending on lap times with the conditions, but based on about a 154, 155 kind of average lap, we'll probably be expecting somewhere around 45 to 50 laps of racing tonight. So you could get away with being on wets for kind of, 5, 6, 7 laps, maybe even as few as that before you come in, fill the tank up and get back out there.
But this is very interesting too, Jared, because of the fact that we've only got 8 minutes left before we're going racing.
It's still very
and that
wet.
track still looks very wet. Now, it's not a bad idea to give it a shot there and try those dry tyres.
Ridley just holding on to it. Have a look at it.
If you could possibly start the race on those dry tyres, a lot of this will be going through these drivers' minds right now. What tyre do you start the race on? Because you know it's going to start drying up. And that means saves you potentially a pit stop if you start on those dries. But are you just going to lose too much time just struggling to keep it on the track as you're currently seeing at the moment? But hey, this track is changing, and in 7 minutes' time, it might just be enough. I don't know. That's one for the chat. What do you guys think? Do you risk it for the biscuit and somebody start on dries, or would you just play it safe and go wets?
I think Tim's on the money. I think it's way too wet to be thinking about dries. This will be interesting to see what Ridley's time is. But I think, well, my goodness, he's doing everything he can to keep that in a straight line.
But if you're starting at the back of the field, I reckon you'd risk it and just go, because you can't fall the way back that far. You can fall off the track, of course.
Ridley's just run a 221.8, and the rest of the drivers out there on wets running between 202s and 208s. So it tells me there's a long way to go before we're ready to see wet tyres out there. But I'm gonna say that the strategy will be start on the wet tyres, get through about 8 or 9 laps, and then get in, full fuel it, dry tyres, and go from there. That's my prediction for a winning strategy, because that should make it a 2-stopper and right on the limit of what you can actually get out of the fuel tank. Remembering, of course, that it is an 80-litre restricted tank.
Or are we going to see a situation where we're going to have just Lewis Hamilton sitting on the grid by himself and everybody else starting from pit lane?
I mean, it's not the worst idea.
I don't know. If I was somebody at the back, I'd give it a shot and start it on dries. It's too risky if you're up at the front end of the field there, because you're going to get you're just going to get overtaken by everybody too for now off the line, just trying to get the temperature into those tyres as mentioned. But if you're at the back of the field, you got really nothing to lose and a lot to gain.
It's very, very cold temps. Ryan Palmer just reporting 13.3 degree track temperatures. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure this evening.
Yeah, coming down to 5 minutes remaining. Still lots of spray out there. No standing water, thankfully, as you can see. A couple of little dry lines will start to form. But more importantly, more worrying, of course, is that all that spray, as you can see, is in the high-speed turns, and that's where you're going to struggle to keep it on the track. The straights seems perfectly fine. Not a lot of spray in some parts of that track on the straights. But those corners, under the heavy braking zone, that's when you're going to start to see the wiggle. And not talking about the famous Australian band, the Wiggles. I'm talking about these cars wiggling.
Honestly, this is one of my favourite changes, though, that iRacing made at the start of this season. You see that spray dying off as you slow down. They've made that so much closer to reality as we see Matt Bakir, big moment there. The amount of spray that's kicked up at lower speeds has been brought back drastically, and it's far more realistic.
Oh, DC's just spun exiting the pit lane on dry tyres when he slapped them on. So he couldn't even get out of pit lane when he put the horsepower down. That's to show you that's definitely not. I don't think he'd be starting at all on those tyres.
I mean, you've got to give it a crack,
right?
right? You've got to give it a shot.
But not in the top 10. Not in the top 10. It's too risky, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be absolutely stunned to see anybody out there on dries to start this one, but we will make sure that we bring that to you, folks. We'll keep a very close eye on the starting tyres when they do grid up. You'll see most of the drivers now starting to head in as we get ready for racing to get underway. We'll take a break and we will be right back with you just a couple of minutes before we get underway here at the Bend in Adelaide, folks, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Struggling to get your business online? At Domains2U, we make it easy with fast domain registration, powerful web hosting, and top-tier security solutions. Protect your data and customers with premium security features like domain privacy and SSL encryption. Find the perfect domain name and get online in minutes. Get started today at domains2u.com.au.
That's what it's all about.
What it's all about, absolutely, folks. We are seeing the clouds cleared, so we're getting a bit of sunlight on the track finally as we get ready to go racing here at Allen Bend, the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park, built in 2018, so one of the newest tracks that you'll find on iRacing. It is a very highly rated track in terms of track surface and conditions, in fact rated to take basically anything except Formula One here. An absolute complex of corners as well. It's the second longest permanent circuit in the world when they use the full GT layout, 7.7 kilometres. This is effectively Australia's Nürburgring. It is the second longest permanent circuit in the world. But of course tonight the international circuit, the Nürburgring, is the longest.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, quite a difference between them, jumps from 7.7 up to, 14, 16 kilometres, top of my head. So there's a fair difference, to be fair. But tonight, 4.88 kilometres here. The temperature on track, 14 degrees. The air temp, 19 degrees. The wind still 63 kilometres an hour. This is going to be tough for the drivers. And I will be very, very surprised to see anyone starting on dry tyres, but I'm just making a mental note here to ensure that we have the tyre compound on display when we do get underway here in just a couple of minutes, folks. So bear with us because the drivers are just finishing up the warm-up. We've got about 1 minute to go before they start gridding. Let us know in the chat, what's your prediction? How many drivers are we going to see on the grid on dries? I really don't think it's going to be any Biggles.
Well, I was hoping that a couple of drivers might risk it for the biscuit. The north-easterly winds too means that they're going to be getting that wind pushing them down to turn one. So that's going to be very interesting. Of course, in the tricky sector, middle sectors, plural of them, in the middle, they're going to be facing into those winds. So that's going to be quite a little bit different, of course, but obviously probably braking a little bit earlier, especially braking a little bit earlier into the first couple of turns when you've got cold tyres, but with that 50-something kilometre an hour winds, giving you a nice push from behind, you have to make sure you hit your braking point a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I am honestly pretty concerned about turn one here, particularly if there's anyone on dries. I think it's going to be an early safety car. That's my look. I'm not going to say my prediction, but certainly an item to watch. Let's say. As we get ready to go racing, because I think there's a very real chance that we'll have a decent sized pile up at turn one here, regardless of wet tyres versus dry, really.
Well, that means too, if you get that early safety car, I would imagine some of those drivers might come into the pit lane there and switch it over. But
they might do. Grid. Here's the grid. So Wilson and Loxton on the front row, Jamie Dyke and Daniel McCrone behind them, then Salhani and Hinds, ahead of Palmer and Coleman, and Ridley and Buchanan rounding out the top 10 from your shootout. Josh Harris and Aaron Gilbert will line up just behind them. Then Jim Iannidis and Jackson Starrett, Matt Bakir and Daniel Harrod ahead of Gresh and Henry King. Martin Lipsky and Ronald Long rounding out your top 20, with Trev Mortimer, Dean Power ahead of Ian Ward and Ethan Johnson. Then Robbie Bradbury and Chris Lashbrook ahead of Jared Burns, and Luke Speck rounds out the 28 drivers that are here to race tonight. Race control, Nathan Allen and Pete Manette will hopefully not be called on, but as I said, I'm going to be very surprised if we don't see an early safety car here in these conditions. Let's head down to the grid and get ready to go racing here for 90 minutes at the bend as we wait on these.
And what tyres do you put on the safety car?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. Interestingly, we've got a drive-through issued car 16 already. Ryan Palmer. What on earth has happened there in that practice session to justify that? Yeah, car 16 and car 53.
53. I'm looking for 53 currently at the moment.
53 as well.
I don't see a 53 out there.
Could be Henry King, Team Jinx. Maybe a slight typo.
It's 52. Yeah, it could be. Well, you're not going to see it spray yet until they get started, but of course it's a standing start. So there's your tyres that are starting to come up. Some of the drivers. We're still waiting. Drivers have not elected. Yeah, David Coleman, as well as Luke Speck down there in Sideways Esports. So far, but the other drivers are still debating with their teams right now. What are we chucking on, fellas? Let's not have a committee meeting. Put the tyres on and send them out, as Martin Brundle would say in that famous pit stop one. Kerfuffle.
It's certainly the field being dominated on Mitch Curry, number 53. Now that's okay. So that's going to be race control testing that out, because Mitch Curry has unceremoniously elected to not continue racing in the Gen 3 supercars after the race that he had just a couple of weeks ago.
We have no Curry Corner then.
No, look, Curry Corner still exists.
Yeah.
I think he just got a little bit, a little bit tired of the risk of Curry Corner, I suppose. 20 seconds to go here. Jamie Dyke still trying to decide what tyres to put on. Trev Mortimer is on dries. The rest of the field on wets. Jamie Dyke. David Coleman switched to wets. Okay, so Coleman switched, and Jamie Dyke on wets as well. As we get ready to go racing here, we'll go down to the track.
So Trevi will be the first one at the back on 21st place, starting on those dries. So keep an eye out. Let's get racing, gentlemen.
Here we go. Everyone on the grid. The green flag waved at the back. The lights come up. And we are underway. A very slow start from Wilson and Loxton as the rest of the field starts to head on down the main straight. And here they come down towards turn one. You can see there's still plenty of spray out on track. There's 90 minutes of racing, all sorts of very, very interesting lines going on here. We're hoping they all just make it through turn one, and it's been reasonably clean so far. And we start to get ourselves sorted out. 90 minutes of racing, so no one's going to be too keen to push hard and cause an incident this early. But we get ourselves underway, and so far, everyone behaving themselves.
Yeah, they got their windscreen wipers on too, trying to, apart from our race leader, of course, just trying to get some visibility there. It's not bad. You can see a couple of drivers going a little bit wide at the back. So far, so good. Didn't work out for...
It's a tricky little turn, that one.
For Trevor, just couldn't get it off there on the dry tyres, and he went practically plumped last on that one, but playing it safe down the dry tyres, knowing it. Did a lot bad there for Luke Speck, actually, in the dry tyres. He actually gained 3 places, but they're still just gingerly trying to navigate their way around the track, get a feel for it in the cold conditions and tyres.
So far, everyone keeping it pretty respectable. No one wanting to bin it so early on here, of course. So you can see a couple of drivers already thinking about moves. That's James Selhani just weaving back and forward there behind Thomas Hinds. Big moment for Buchanan as he gets a little sideways through the turn there. You can see a few tyre marks already as, who's that going very sideways at the back end? Just trying to pick which car that was. Might have actually not
I didn't
sure at all
see-
whose that was.
I didn't see anybody go off track.
No, just a big
him.
sideways moment, just getting the power down.
Yeah.
And I see Kyle Ridley already starting to defend the inside a little from Aaron Gilbert there. But Jamie
Yeah,
Bryan-
Ryan Palmer had a fantastic launch. He's up 4 places currently at the moment. So the ADHD racing driver in 3rd place. And putting some pressure on Brett Loxton as well, too, for that P2 as our race leader starts to form a little bit of a gap away. That's 7/10 currently at the moment. There's some challenges down into turn 1. Once again, remember there's about that 50-kilometre-an-hour wind that's pushing him down into this turn at the moment.
Gresh and Powell going side by side on the way down to turn 1. Gresh probably making a smarter move to just pull out of it a little bit. Powell finds himself very, very wide. Ian Ward in the background.
Very wide,
through.
gentlemen.
That is definitely bold in these conditions. As we see Martin Lipsky in the background also just having a bit of a go there. Ethan Johnson and Matt Bakir swapping places as we make our way down towards the, we'll call it a hairpin, although it's a fairly wide one and a bit of a decreasing radius more than a hairpin, but even so it feels plenty tight as we see Ethan Johnson, the new entry privateer, trying to get the power down and doing reasonably well there in the
Ryan Palmer got through
his entry.
Brett as well too, loving these conditions as well too. So he's making his way 5 positions gain now. And I think he'll be on the back of Dyke very soon too. He's loving these changeable conditions at the moment. It's dry outside, but the track's still wet from that thunderstorm they had earlier.
Still plenty of water around. It'll dry up quickly. You can see there's still quite a bit of spray being thrown up, despite the sunlight. Very, very cold temperatures. Loxton just giving Palmer a bit of a nudge to say, hey, don't forget me, I'm still here. The door gets closed as Loxton tries to sneak up the inside. You can see him just struggling the back end of that car, stepping left, right on him. It'll be interesting to go back and I'll just see if I can track it down for us and just see how on earth Palmer actually managed to get past Brett Loxton. Let's have a look at this move. And Palmer's just
full
throwing it up the inside.
Yeah.
And parked it on the apex and said, thank you very much.
Yeah, Loxton just has to lift off a little bit. Unfortunate, Luke Speck's gone out into the kitty litter as well too after he was trying to make some gains, so their dry tyres are just not working, unfortunately, at the moment. It's an indication to the rest of the field to continue on those wets.
Yeah, I think still, as I said, if you can get through even 10 laps here, wouldn't be a bad run for them. And if the track is drying up at that stage, which you'd think it would be, it might be worth considering getting across to the dry tyres. But still, quite obviously, a lot of water on the track itself. Just no dry line yet.
Oh, yeah, Ryan Palmer's thinking about that overtaking opportunity this time around on Dyke, but he's got to be very, very careful because
Loxton's right there, isn't he?
He's right there, yeah.
Pressuring in a big way, so Palmer hopefully can stay cool, calm and collected. As we go back to Bakir and Johnson now, who have been going back and forth just a little so far. Johnson now wants to get up the inside. It's a really tough spot to pass on here. Sequence of right-handers with really only the one line you can take through them, but Johnson's setting up nicely. He's on the outside here. Really pushing.
Cleverly lifted off there for a second and elected not to go side by side through there because once again, maybe at a sprint race they might risk it for the biscuit there, but not in an endurance race. As mentioned out there from Scotty in the chat there, it's,
still early days.
Being turned. Yeah, it's because the pack's, pretty much bunched up. You got about a 25-second gap down to the back of the field here, so spin's definitely going to put you at the rear of this race.
Burns runs wide. Harrod sneaks on through, so Burns and Powell, the two Blackhawk Motorsport entries, now tucked in behind, and here comes Ian Ward, just getting a bit of attention from Giannidis, but Ward pushing hard in. Is this a clown car? Or is that just balloons?
It's got balloons.
Balloons, yeah. Okay, sure, why not? Damien Harrod continues the battle, continues to hold off the Blackhawk Motorsports entries as they make their way around onto the front straight again, but they're going to be tucked in right behind him, and you can see Jared Burns looking to the inside. We go up front, though, because Loxton has put the move on Palmer. Palmer's going to have to think about how hard he wants to push here. Loxton's having to run very wide. Palmer's got the better run. He's going to just shut him off again in the background. Keep your eye on Thomas Wilson. Very, very quick in qualifying. Loxton up the inside.
The breakers. Wow.
Oh, they're going at it here. Palmer is going hard at Loxton now that he has gotten in behind.
Wilson could drive around the outside of these two fighting these at the moment. Oh, but there's no track, there's no grip out there, of course. It's slippery.
Be very everywhere, though, here at the bend right now. So Thomas Wilson, Ryan Palmer, Daniel McCrowan all caught up in it. And then behind them, keep an eye on that battle as well with Hinz, Salhani, Buchanan, Coleman in amongst it as well. The group settles down a little. Jamie Dyke out in front, not really managing to put too much distance on anyone behind him.
Well, he got into about 1.5 in that battle just before, but now they're starting to reel him back in again.
Here we go, this battle between Hinz, Salhani, Buchanan and Coleman. But really, they're getting close enough now because of that battling with Loxton and Palmer. It slowed the whole pack down. We're now into a top 10 train here. Mm-hmm. This is not a battle for 7th, as your battle box shows. This is actually really a battle for first, with 10 drivers all still in it, as we get towards the 10-minute mark of this 90-minute race. A little bit of separation still, but yeah, still plenty in it, and good racing going on right throughout. Big hello to Mitch Curry, who drops into the chat there, mate. Hope you're doing well and enjoying not being out in the wet conditions. James Salhani now looked at a move from Will Buchanan and unfortunately couldn't hang on to it. Buchanan's charged on through there. Coleman now wants to try his luck up the inside.
Going to be under attack in the turn 1. The two classic overtaking opportunities, as you can see. I think
all the way inside. Really wanted to drag Salhani across. Now Coleman goes back to the better line. Salhani's going to have to pull it up in a hurry. Nothing doing for David Coleman at the moment, but just playing a few mind games here, trying to look for the mistake. Look at this. We are 2-3 wide here in Ward out in front. Just
glance to the left. Jokers to the right. It's the Balloons car. Of course, you can see it right there.
Oh, Bradbury charges through. Lashbrook has no choice but to stay outside. Robbie Bradbury from Pacific Esports Racing gets through the gap. Not much there for it, but gets through all the same. Out in front, the gap to Jamie Dyke starting to really close down. We'll keep an eye on that. But we'll now have a look at Thomas Hinz and Will Buchanan. Buchanan has made the move past Salhani just a lap ago and now right on the tail of Hinz, looking for 7th place. The pit time loss we haven't seen yet, Scott. I'm going to estimate for a full refuel, look, probably close to a minute, I reckon, end to end in the pits.
The tyres and a full refuel, yeah. And that's another thing that these drivers are going to want to do is stretch out these wet tyres until that scheduled pit stop that they would have done if they started this race in dry conditions.
You can see that dry line starting to really appear on the track now, though. Just starting to
and I'm keeping my eyes on those dry tired drivers at the back as well too, just seeing when that crossover point's going to start kicking in. At the moment, Luke Speck is about 2 seconds off the pace, but that was down from a couple laps ago where he was about 5 to 6 seconds off the pace. So he's starting to come into play now a little bit.
Yeah, it's starting to look.
Oh, was contact up the road too, with a bit of a blacker at the back of the field there actually, but Robert Long had contact with Trev. Trevor's on those dry tyres, so they might have got caught off guard. Those drivers have to be aware, of course, as you know, that if you've got drivers on dry tyres, they're going to be approaching the corners a little bit differently than what you would on wets. As Ryan Palmer and Jamie Dyke as well, to switch to route again.
Loxton's managed to make it through on Jamie Dyke. Dyke finds himself just out a little bit wider than perhaps he'd like, and now Ryan Palmer sneaks through, so Jamie Dyke finally reeled in by these two. He's still going to battle though. He's on the inside of Palmer, so he's going to try desperately to hang on P2 as you see Ryan Palmer sliding it across the back. Gives you an idea of just how little traction these guys do have. You see them in this shot here. They really do come out of that corner fairly so. As we're 3 wide on the exit as Thomas Wilson looks up the inside now. So Palmer can't get through Jamie Dyke, but Thomas Wilson wants to challenge Ryan Palmer. Daniel McCrowan's still in amongst it, and here comes Josh Harris, the other ADHD racing entry. Brett Loxton, meanwhile, finally getting out in front, and he's immediately extended out to almost 1.5 seconds. The question is he going to be able to hang on to that once this little battle kind of peters out, I suppose? Or is he just going to start to walk away with it?
You can see that big train of cars at the moment from P2 downwards.
Keep
You're
going,
not
Thomas
safe even
Wilson.
being out the front with Loxton as well, too, because little mistakes have been creeping in for these drivers, and so far, that P1 position hasn't been safe for anybody. Doc's been P1 for a little bit. And Brett's now P1. And of course, going through these drivers' minds are, is it getting close enough to switch it over? Especially if you're these drivers, say, for example, where Thomas is, Josh Harris, and Will. If you feel that you're getting held up at some point, you might be going, all right, might jump into the pit lane and take that gamble and switch over to dries, get myself some clean air, put some banker laps down, and then say bye-bye to everybody when they take their pit stops later.
Here's what you're looking for, Scott. The gap right now to Luke Speck from leader, just on 32 seconds at the moment. So he's out there on dry tyres. I think we're probably at the point now, as James Salhani sets the fastest lap of 2:03.2, we're probably getting pretty close to the crossover point. But these guys have done almost enough laps that it shouldn't matter too much. If they come in and make a stop pretty much any time after, I reckon, this lap or perhaps next lap, if my math is any good, which it may well not be, then they will be able to make it to the end as still a 2-stopper. It won't be an extra stop that they're making to change the tyres over. So really the question now is just when do they...
It's time, because Luke Speck just hit a 2:03, and he's had the first time he's had some clear air because he's had a bit of traffic up the road to deal with. And it's
Thomas Wilson, big lock up and goes out into Jamie Dyke.
Allows him through. He's going to have to lift off a little bit. He's going to scrub the speed here.
Surely Wilson's going to have to redress that.
Yeah, if I was these other drivers just inside that top 10 right now that are in this traffic,
so Wilson is not redressing, but he's going very, very wide. He's going to end up off track there if he's not careful. And he's lost a lot of time. Jamie Dyke says, thank you very much. I will take that spot back. And here comes the train behind. Wilson's not going to have an opportunity to close that up. Salhani, Hins, Coleman, all right there. Wilson getting very, very loose as he tries to get the power down. So those tyres starting to really feel this change in track condition. And the grip just not there so much anymore. Thomas Wilson barely staying ahead of James Salhani. Salhani's going to be on the inside here. And he pushes on through. Wilson can only watch as he gets turfed to the outside of the turn. And here comes Thomas Hins as well up the inside. You've got to wonder if we're about to see Wilson decide to swap it over to dries here.
Why not? As I said, if you lose too much speed in this traffic, I think it may be some of the race-winning moments here. It's going to see 3 wide on the exit. Off into the dirty part of the track where it's greasier, probably more off the racing line, and gets a little bit slippery there.
So Ryan Palmer's coming to the lane.
He's come in, yeah, that's probably clever at the moment, just wants to get out of that and get some clean air. We'll see if he actually manages to come out ahead of Trevor. He's running it. He probably should come out ahead of Trevor, but
this is actually probably a pretty good strategy, because being so early in the race, he's not going to have to take a huge amount of fuel to fill that tank. And what he's going to want from here is 2 absolutely topped off tanks to get to the end. This is the start of lap 8. This is pretty much bang on. So there might be a little bit of fuel saving required for Palmer here to get to the end, but geez, there's not going to be a huge amount in it. Keep your eye on Ryan Palmer's time at pits as we see.
Yeah, I am. I'm keeping an eye down the pit lane. Actually, he's exiting pit lane now. So his stationary was for 15 seconds. Now he's got to be very careful on the pit lane exit. I'm just keeping an eye out for, as we saw a few drivers spinning out of the exit. But Ryan Palmer's taken that one perfectly. He's got out ahead of Trevor, which I thought. So we'll put him essentially almost plump last. But now he's got clean air up the road, actually. He's got about 8 seconds and change before he gets up to Mr. Long. So I'll keep an eye on those lap times from Ryan Palmer.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what his first full speed lap actually delivers here.
Yes.
You can already see, look how much less spray there is coming off the back of those cars when they're at full noise. It's almost nothing now compared to what it was at the start of this race. So the track drying up very, very nicely. We're starting to find a lot more grip through those apexes. And I think Palmer's probably made the right choice in terms of timing. The question is, what are we going to see from Loxton? Loxton, though, on the wets has just set a 2:01.92. 2:01. So there's still something left in those wet tyres yet.
Yeah, this is where Ryan's got to get that message and go, oh, wow, okay, I've got to get the 2 minutes at least if I want to be able to jump these guys when they come in a little later. That's what he wants, because he doesn't. One thing we haven't really seen yet is big battles going on between drivers in dry tyres or on dry tyres.
Danny McCrollen's just set a 2:01.14. That is blisteringly quick on wets.
Yeah, just can't wait to see what these dry tyres are going to be. And you go off the racing line, don't you? And into where it's going to be more wet, more moist, as you were saying earlier. So that's going to be difficult to do some overtaking in the moment of dry tyres. That's why you want clean air somewhere along the line.
And that's what these drivers are going to have to be watching now, right? Is because it is drying up, they're going to actually have to think about driving in those wetter sections of the track to just try and bring the tyre temps down and get just a little bit of extra life out of them. Otherwise, they're going to start chewing through that grip very, very quickly as we see the battle with Lipsky, Bradbury and Speck carrying on. Luke Speck out there, though, on dry tyres right from the start, and he is quite comfortably sticking with this group at the moment. Ryan Palmer, a 2:03.79, his best so far. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what he delivers on this. This will be his first full lap at pace on those dries.
Well, he's got traffic as well, too.
Big moment there from Speck. Wow. He's well off the track there, just way too late on the brakes. Lucky not to take out both Lipsky and Bradbury. So perhaps the dry tyres off the line.
Oh, actually, yeah, Ronald just pulled off the side of the road and allowed Ryan Palmer through. So we haven't seen a fight yet on those dry tyres. So Ronald said, no problems there, Ryan, go past. So Ryan can continue his flying lap. I don't think he'd be hindered whatsoever on his fast lap there. It was unfortunate for Luke Speck, but that's the thing, isn't it? Because you're in that traffic, you're battling, and you're having to go off that dry line, and that's where they're just losing too much speed on those dry tyres currently at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the real danger, right? There is a definite dry line developing out there that they can get the pace on, but overtaking is going to be really questionable for a while yet on dry tyres. So we'll see how it plays out. Loxton almost down into the 159s at 2:02 flat. Danny McCrollen goes just a tenth quicker, so the front two, there's still plenty of pace. Kyle Ridley now comes in, so he'll be swapping over to the dries. G'day, Greg. Welcome into the chat, mate. Good to have you back with us. It's a very interesting set of moves we're seeing so far. Ethan Johnson looks up the inside of Aaron Gilbert and sends it through turn one. Finds himself a little slow on the exit, though, so Gilbert's going to have the opportunity to attack here, back on the inside. Johnson, can he go over, under? Looks for the drive back up the side. You see the rear end of that car slide out as he tries to put the power down. Still on those wet tyres. Still a fairly damp track in parts.
Ryan does the fastest lap, 55s. He just set a 55. That's blisteringly quick. Now the other drivers have to respond to that. They're going to have to. Ryan is currently at the moment 42 seconds off Brett Loxton's time here, and they're spending good 50 seconds in pit lane. It's going to be very close here. I think it's a good call from Ryan Palmer.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And you can see the number of drivers that have swapped over to the dries in just the last little while. So still plenty of drivers out there on the wets, but Ryan Palmer out on dries is moving on up as quickly
5 seconds a lap quicker than the rest of the field.
He's going to chew into that lead from Loxton and McCrollen real
absolutely
quick.
And he's got Bradby up the road. So he's hoping he wants to kind of get past him as quickly as possible once again. That was one lap that we actually saw finally from, one of the quickest drivers on the track on dry tyres. So that's an indication that we've had, because unfortunately those other drivers before they were on the dry tyres were in a bit of traffic. Ryan Palmer should get an overtake done soon. Now he's going to go off the racing line. So he'll be hindered on this lap, unfortunately. Brett's in from the race lead.
There we go. So, yeah, he's seen that time from, and sure enough, the ADHD Racing message has been passed on to Josh Harris as he comes in. Look at them all streamline in now. Jamie Dyke's going to push for just a little bit more out of his wets before he changes them. Enjoy a bit of clear air out there without the pressure and just try and get the most out of it. Feels that it's still just damp enough.
Ryan Palmer just disposed of two cars, Robbie and Martin, in a space of a couple of corners too. So even in those going off the racing line a little bit, he's finding the grip out there now on the dry tyres.
So this will be interesting because he is coming up this straight. Look at all those drivers still in there getting the tyres changed over. Loxton's still in the pit refueling. So Palmer's going to jump past everybody here.
Got them all. Yep.
Palmer has absolutely timed that to perfection with his stop. Only spent 51.95 seconds in there because he did it earlier, 7 laps in, so less fuel to take on board. Spent 15.4 in the bay. The quickest so far, Thomas Wilson, a 52.42 coming out of the pit lane, so he's gotten out ahead of Loxton.
He's got it. Yeah, Thomas Wilson actually got out ahead of him by taking that pit stop as well earlier. So Thomas made some gains there because Brett's come back out in that let's say essentially P3. And
this is going to be interesting.
From the pit stops.
Wilson and Loxton both on cold tyres, getting around Ronald Long here. They're both going to be pushing very, very hard to try and catch Ryan Palmer, who's now got himself, look, a fairly sizable lead, 13.5 seconds over these two. That's really, really promising for Palmer and ADHD. He's just got to try to keep it on track for the rest of the next hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's got traffic to navigate through. He just got past Jim up at a P8 at the moment, and then he's got 2 seconds to catch Adrian Grench, which he will be catching him pretty quickly as well. But he's just got to get his head down and get the focus on and keep it on the track there. He doesn't look loose at all. No. He looks very confident, and it looks like it's glued to the track. So he's going to maintain that gap, which is still 13 seconds over Thomas Wilson.
Yeah, and look, Scott, absolutely on the money. He's going to have to make a longer stop because he's going to need 2 full tanks of fuel from here to get home. Hitting on lap 7 means that he's pretty much counting on 2 full tanks, probably another 40 laps of racing before the end. He would not want a safety car because it's going to bring the field back to him, but at the same time, you have to think about
the
just
confidence there.
The amount of extra grip.
Put the power down. It's like you're driving out there with me on the track, and I'm doing 10 seconds a lap slower than everybody else. That's what it looks like, but that's just tyres, my friend.
These three all caught up at the moment. So Harney Buchanan and Hins, Trev Mortimer in the background, just off the track, still struggling a little bit to find his grip even on the dries. But you can see, a huge number of drivers all peeling into the pits now. So all around, 10, 11 laps in, which is probably about the right kind of timing that you'd expect. So most of these drivers will be running pretty close to full fuel loads to get to the end. As I said earlier, you'll get, look, from what I've seen of the drivers in practice and what I've been told by a couple of the drivers, you're using somewhere between about 3.9 and 4.1 litres per lap here at the bend. With an 80 litre fuel tank, you can see that's pretty much bang on 20 litres. And for an hour and a half of racing with a 154 average or thereabouts, we're expecting somewhere around 47 laps. Now, the slower times of those earlier laps means that there's going to be less and less laps and fuel required towards the end. So, look, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. We see Loxton going around the outside of Bradbury, now back to the inside. Bradbury's still on wet, isn't going to have the grip of Loxton or Wilson, so he's going to have to let them walk on through. But the gap out to Palmer still, it's actually almost 15 seconds now that Palmer has
Daniel
over
comes
Loxton.
In, from the lead. He'll lose that lead, of course, to Ryan Palmer. Josh Harris has had a moment
in the background.
DC's coming as well, too, from P2.
What's happened to Harris?
Yeah, Josh Harris is...
just on those slicks and unfortunately hits a bit too much water. Gets it going again. No harm done bar his position. But he won't be stoked with that, I'm sure. Watch Ryan Palmer fly by those leading three.
It's going to be a fastest lap now. And he said, yes, it is. It's a 55.1 from Palmer as he goes right to the top of the timesheets.
We're not at qualifying pace yet, but check out Loxton's time here.
15-second gap now to Loxton. So he is picking it up.
What can Loxton do? 57.
14.
That's interesting. Yeah. So Palmer is still a good couple of seconds quicker. And is it just a question of how much extra time it's taking to bring those tyres up to temp, I wonder?
It would be, as well as, remember, Loxton had traffic there. He was battling out with Wilson as well, too, so that was costing him a little bit of time there when Palmer really didn't have anybody to battle with, but those drivers that had the wet tyres.
Henry King, a big moment there, just gets it loose, manages to recover it without any damage, but not the ideal racing line, unfortunately.
This is why it's crucial to have a good crew chief if you do. In changing conditions like that, so that you've got somebody that could sit there and calculate exactly where your car's going to come out on track there, how much time you're going to lose in traffic, and all those scenarios. Because once again, I feel that some of those drivers that were in that 9th, 10th position earlier on should have probably come in like what Ryan did. They would have got themselves that clean air, and they would have jumped a lot of places. Well, Thomas Wilson did. He was one of those drivers. So, I think he was, 3rd or 4th or something like that.
Yeah, just the lap after Palmer. As Jamie Dyke runs wide there, trying to keep it on track. It's still going to be a tough one out there on dry tyres. When you're pushing hard through those corners, you get just slightly off that dry line. You're going to slide quite a bit I reckon.
Another thing is these guys that are staying out wet tyres, that's Lipsky and Robbie Bradbury, they are just stretching, I think, for fuel scenarios now. They know that they're going to be quite significantly down on time. They are. They're almost 8 seconds lap slower than everybody else, but they're willing to sacrifice that to try to stretch their fuel stints longer, I would imagine.
At this point, they've got to really commit to. Look at this, a group of 5 really bunching up here. And
they're the ones trying to get around those guys with those tyres. That's the thing.
Behind Lipsky and Robbie Bradbury still under wet, so Salhani gets caught up in it. Buchanan's made it past 1, now will make it past the second. A 54.9 from Thomas Wilson. So Ryan Palmer, his 14-second lead is going to start diminishing now, just ever so slowly, keeping in mind that he's got to keep the pace up for the rest of the race to hang on to that.
Well, he's hoping that because Thomas Wilson's battling it out with Loxton, so that is what he'll be happy to know about that, because you know what happens when those battles, it ends up costing them a little bit of time to a leader that's way up the road and got clean air, not to mention as well. So, all looking good. But those drivers, only one left now. Only Robbie's the only remaining for the Pacific Motorsports entrance, who's battling it out with James as well for the P7 position, holding on as much as he can. What's going around? It looks like
that in the background there. Was that
in?
Was that Jackson Starrett or someone like that? Or was that one of the lap cars? I'm just trying to who it was. It was Jackson Starrett ran way wide back there. But Bradbury, the last driver, still out on wets. Certainly costing himself some time, but as he said, he's really got to start thinking about the fuel situation.
And Jamie Dyke just gets past him, Gilbert gets past him as well, and you can imagine Josh Harris will be getting past him anytime soon as well. But of course, it's not easy to just get past somebody in the corners. You got to go off that racing line, you got to risk it a little bit to get around. Robbie's not going to just move over and let anybody in too. He's going to make him drive around the outside of him. He's just, as you can see, Josh Harris gets out on the apron a little bit too, almost loses control. He has before.
Yeah, and remembering on those dry tyres, get off that very dry line, and all of a sudden the grip just disappears. 54.4 from Loxton now, so definitely faster than Palmer's 55.5. Cut almost a second out of him. In fact, just over a second out of him on that last one. So Ryan Palmer out in front. Yeah, he's starting to see that evaporate a bit.
Bobby comes in. So that's it. So Robbie stretched it 15 laps on wet weather tyres. He's going to be glad to get rid of them. He's going to be chucking them in the trash bin, saying thank you. I'll take some full freshies of dry tyres now, and he'll fuel up. He'll be the driver that look out for that goes a lot deeper in this stint of the race.
We're on board now with Brett Loxton, just to get a bit of an idea of the bend. And this is one of the things about the bend that makes it so tricky. You'll notice it's fairly featureless. You don't have a lot of brake marker boards except at some of the main turns, and not a lot of roadside reference points for your brake markers either. So you really do have to learn this track, and I can tell you, because more than once I've been caught out myself thinking that I'm a turn or two ahead of where we are. You see the amount of sun there, but look at that dry line. You can actually see it from our gyro cam inside the cockpit with Brett Loxton. Yep. The dry line very, very visible on track now, so making it a little bit easier for these drivers to actually aim for it. But Loxton putting on a cracking pace here as he comes around for what will be the end of lap 15. So he's probably got another, give or take, probably another 15 laps to go before he needs to refuel. So if he keeps cutting a second a lap out of Brian Palmer here, we'll see what the time looks like. He's actually cut just over 2 seconds out of Palmer. So look, I can't see Palmer holding onto this lead, but certainly Ryan Palmer set himself up well for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I don't know if Ryan Palmer thought he was going to be in the lead by taking that gamble early, but he'd be happy to have that so he can concentrate on his own race and not what's happening. You can see on your pictures there the battle currently at the moment for P4. But what's interesting as well too is a big gainer that came out of all this too is Ethan Johnson. He's down there in P14, but he's gained 10 places, and he took a very long pit stop too. It took 1 minute and 5 seconds overall, 28 seconds stationary, one of the longest pit stops. Still up 10 in P14, so
Ethan Johnson, I believe this is his first drive here tonight in the series. So, look, he's going to be up against it for championship points, but certainly holding up well in the competition that he's in amongst, because he's battling out with some pretty quick names. You know, he's right up there with Coleman and Powell and Henry King and Trev Lordman just behind him. So he's holding his own.
He's got a fast computer because he's got Lake's custom computers, you see.
Ah, well, that could be it.
He's got the speed edge over everybody else in processing power. Dean Powell's come off the track ahead of him, actually, and had a spin. So, unfortunately for the Black Hawk Motorsport driver, he's dropped down to P16 currently at the moment. You'll see that right on the replay. It goes way out wide. No grip out there, my friends. Not like the track in France, of course, where that is actually painted grip surfaces that they have.
No, this is just painted and slippery and covered in marble.
Just painted and slippery. Yeah.
Not ideal. Not ideal. Will Buchanan still holding off Daniel McCrohan behind him. McCrohan's got a fair whack of pace here. A couple tenths quicker last lap, but just hasn't quite found the way past yet. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. Chris Lashbrook having a couple of incidents back there as well. So unfortunately for that ADHD driver, not looking quite so crash hot at the moment.
Crash hot.
Yeah, well.
That's not a word you tell drivers.
I'm glad to see a bit of chat going on there, that I'm just staying a big bounce over the curves to Buchanan. He's trying to cut just a little bit too much out of the corners. You really can't afford to on those particular sausage curbs. But certainly through the rest of this match, really, it certainly will.
Your fillings out of your teeth on that one.
I'm surprised the car's intact, honestly. I know these things like.
If you had a butt kicker or any of that in your rig, you could definitely feel it.
Can you imagine that? And McCrohan just not quite able to find a way past this stage. And honestly, it's I don't know that he's actually trying to pass at the moment, or if he's actually thinking about maybe a little bit of fuel saving by sitting in behind Buchanan. Buchanan's plenty quick enough. You're seeing the times start to equalise a bit here too as these tyres get past, you know, as we always say, the Gen 3 supercars. Only a couple of peak laps when you first put the tyres on, and now they're starting to just level out a bit. So Brett Loxton last time around a 55 flat, Ryan Palmer a 55.6, so I think Ryan's probably into that, what we'll call the second wind of those tyres, being a few laps ahead of Loxton in that tyre set.
Well, a bit of traffic you have to deal with as well too that they're coming on, so he's just lapped Jared Burns. He's got Chris Lesbrook up the road as well too. That's the same traffic that Brett's going to be coming across very soon as well too, so he's going to have to navigate his way past those cars, which tend to cost you a half a tenth sometimes, depending on where you catch them, of course.
Yeah, Starrett making no such issues for David Coleman. He knows Coleman's quicker, so jumps off to the side and allows him through. Just what you like to see, right? No point in holding someone up for
There's still
reason.
a bit of spray into turn one down the main straight as well. Just it's the only bit of spray I see on the track is, looks like one of the drivers of Adrian Gretsch, I think, got completely out of the way there of both Loxton and Wilson, not wanting to hinder their race as Dyke sets the fastest lap in the 54.
Deep into the
first
54s.
Man. Not the first man in the 54s, of course, but the quickest in the 53s.
3.8. Very, very quick lap. So just starting to find his rhythm with the tyres as well.
Track temperatures are hovering at 19 Celsius, so still cold, but that wind speed will start dropping. It's about 43 kilometres an hour still northeasterly, which means it'll still give them that nice little push down the main straight into turn one.
The gap out in front to Ryan Palmer still hovering around 8.5 seconds, but ever so slightly being chipped away at. Brett Loxton still has Thomas Wilson in the rear view, but not threatening at the moment, which is allowing him to really concentrate on just putting in those quick laps, just nice and consistent. Last time around, Ryan Palmer at 55.9 to the 54.6 of Loxton. G'day, Sheefy. Hope you're doing well, mate. Welcome back. Good to see you here again. Look at that dry line now, Biggles. So obvious. Yep. And really nice and wide too. The drivers will be happy to see that every time they come around with the sun in the face.
Well, it's the first time as this track is evolving too that they're getting used to it, because you've got to remember during that practice session they had that nasty storm that came through, so they didn't have there's dry conditions only during the shootout that we saw earlier. But that was yesterday. So now
Very
this track's
different
getting
weather
quicker.
today.
They're going to start pushing a little bit more and more per lap. Also, that increases, of course, your chances of making mistakes when you start doing that. But the motor drivers, they're always on the absolute edge and on the limit.
You can see, as you said, just that little bit of spray going on there. It's still just patches of water down that main straight.
Yeah, just see it in the braking. Sometimes I saw a little bit earlier. Maybe they've got that off the racing line now.
The sparks, though, as Loxton jumps that curb and just rides the chassis rail over the top of the sausage. So
Well, Luke Speck's come off somewhere as well too. Luke Speck that took that gamble earlier on the dry tyres. Remember, he started on those dry tyres. He did go into the pit lane.
He's going to be thinking about. He's going to be thinking about what he can do to get that pit stop done and refuel. But yeah, Speck
we gave him
he's
10 places, remember? So from the start of that race by changing that alternative strategy, so it's paid off.
It has. Greg, we don't mind the side chats at all. I love to see people having a good old chat about the racing that they're seeing, and hopefully we're keeping it entertaining and relevant for you. Keep a look at what's going on right throughout. Danny McCrowan just keeps throwing it at Will Buchanan. He's got him reeled right in as Buchanan goes just a little bit too wide. And now McCrowan right on his tail. As we go on board, this is the thing that Danny McCrowan's been stuck with probably about the last 5 or 6 laps. Just hasn't been able to find a way past the Revolution e-racing entry of Buchanan.
If he's wanting to as well, it could also be a little bit of fuel saving. Could be like, oh well, that's about the same pace that I'm doing. Well, so as long as you don't make any mistakes up the road there, I'll just give me a nice little tow till our next fuel stop window.
It is something I'm going to have to get worked out at some point. It is tricky. I don't actually cover these with any car audio in my ear, which I probably should, because you can absolutely tell when these drivers are fuel saving. They'll get right off the accelerator and just coast it for the last 50 metres or so, 100 metres or so before the braking marker.
Interesting. Adrian Grinch has gone in pit lane. I did see, he went off track a couple of laps, lap 16 a couple of times. Maybe he got some damage, but I'll keep an eye on him down pit lane.
Steve McCrowan just working the wheel back and forwards here, nice and smooth. It's a very, very flowy kind of track to bend, even in a Gen 3 supercar. I don't care what Josh Harris says.
Wait, I think Grinch has missed his pit box. He didn't stop stationary at all. Just, he was, unless he served a drive-through, but it looked like he was turning into his pit stall, but then completely drove out. It could be a drive-through for too many off-track excursions.
That's pretty early on. We're only 40 minutes into the race. Gotta wonder.
Oh, and he's parked it. He's come straight out of the pit lane and he's just parked it. He might have a technical issue there. And he has not. That car is still on the exit of turn 1, I think, at the moment. But it's just a little bit off. But it is in a dangerous position. So potentially, race control could be looking at this as a possible safety car.
Yes, that'd be devastating for Armour Woodman. Although that gap's coming down.
Oh, it's just towed. They just recovered the car.
Okay.
I'm loving this battle. Lean into the corners, Josh. It makes you go quicker.
Have a look at it. You can tell he's feeling the pressure though. That's David Coleman all over the rear bar of Josh Harris, the ADHD racing entry. And he'll be feeling it because he knows Coleman's quick. Coleman stays up the inside. Here he goes. He's looking at a big dive here. Harris comes across, shuts the door. Coleman, big slide. Manages to hold it. Geez, that was close. And Coleman somehow keeps the pace up. Loxton 54.1 across the line there. So he's still got a lot of pace left in that car.
Yeah, he just shaved about half a second almost off that. But it's interesting as well too. You can see Josh's old school got the shifter as well too, so he's right in the racing rig authenticity, let's say. Safety car has been deployed. That's interesting.
That'll be Lashbrook. Now have a look. David Coleman's just dived into the pits there. Only just.
Wow, that's a late call, isn't it? So is Jackson Starrett as well too behind him. So
I think that'll be Chris Lashbrook that's brought that on.
I think you're right on that one. It has cars somewhere out there for Chris.
Go have a look at this. So Lashbrook has a big moment, spins it, ends up off and gets back on track here without too much of an issue. But then a little further around.
Yeah.
Big slide. Looks like we saw him parked there.
Yeah.
And he hasn't come back on track. Now, I don't know what's happened to Lashbrook's car because he doesn't seem to have taken any damage. We haven't seen an engine.
Got the foot on the brake,
there.
you can see as well.
So yeah, I don't quite know what's happened there. I might try and get in touch with Josh Harris as we get under safety car and see if he can tell us a little bit about what's going on. But we jumped to...
Half the field's come in. Kyle's come in, Matt's come in, Dean's come in, Jackson, Luke Speck, all the way down the field. But I was going to say another front runners, but Palmer's coming in because they weren't around that part of the track. Now, will Brett follow him in? Yes.
Loxton goes
Thomas
in.
stays out.
Wilson stays out. Interesting choice. Interesting choice.
Well, you got to mix it up a little bit, don't you? On your strategy sometimes to get track position.
Here. So the safety car out in front of Thomas Wilson. So they'll all get slowed down here, and there'll be a little bit of resetting to do behind the safety car here to get everyone lined back up before we go green again. We'll just keep an eye on Josh Harris. So I look for him coming down the main straight. Once we get into the safety car lineup, I think we'll be able to grab him on the radio and just have a quick chat and see if we can find out what's happened to Chris Lashbrook. That's really unusual. Really unusual.
Yeah, sitting in pit lane at the moment is I'm just trying to see if he's in the car. No, he's out of the car currently at the moment.
Something's gone very wrong there. Oh, it's a great looking safety car, isn't it, Greg? It really is. I think Scott's on the money though. It is gonna hurt Wilson later having not come in here, because he's gonna have to make a stop here and he's gonna have to make another stop later. This is not going to save anywhere near enough fuel to get this down to a one-stopper. So this is going to be.
He could be preying on another safety car. Safety cars breed safety cars, but he doesn't want to have that safety car too soon. Obviously, in that case, he would hope that safety car will come out in the next 20 laps or so.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Maybe a little less than 20 laps, maybe about 10 laps.
Let's grab Josh Harris into the room. Mr. Harris, are you with us?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing well, mate. Doing well. Sorry to pull you out of your team booth. We just wanted to get some insight on what's happened to Chris Lashbrook.
Technical issues. Unfortunately, he's had a full mechanical failure of his wheel, so the USB connector that connects the wheel to the hub is actually broken completely off.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. So
yeah, so that's unfortunately him for the night. We thought it might have just been a small tech issue and he could tow back and that'd be it. But no, that's him done, unfortunately.
Dean here, Josh. Good strategy call from your teammate there, Ryan Palmer. I liked him to come in earlier.
Yeah, he did. He went in early. I was a little bit nervous. A little bit less aggressive. I just wanted to stay out and make sure that I could drive on those dries. But once he started putting in those real quick laps, we obviously I dived in. He's just gone in again now. I reckon gut feel tells me he's too early. My calculator's still telling me I can't make it to the end yet, so I haven't gone in because I've got one more stop to go. I reckon we've only got one more under safety car, and yeah, anybody who's pitted under this safety car is going to be on max fuel save. I am on max fuel save now. Going to try and put a couple of quick laps in after the safety car goes in, and then fill up with enough time to be able to absolutely race to the end, and hopefully run a few down who are fuel saving at the very end.
Well, he's sitting pretty comfortably for the moment, Josh. Up in third. Obviously, a bit to go yet before that becomes super relevant. What do you reckon the chances are of you and Palmer getting both on the podium at this stage, though?
Mate, there's still so much to play. There's still a whole stint to go. Yeah, look, we'll see. I don't know. If I've made the right strategy call, maybe. But I'm getting a little bit nervous that maybe it's going to be closer than I wanted it to be.
All right, we'll let you get back to doing those calculations with the team. Thanks so much for dropping in. Appreciate the insight.
Yeah, you guys have a wonderful night, and I look forward to maybe speaking to you at the end if I can make all this go the right way.
We'll send you back on up there. Josh Harris from ADHD Racing, thank you again. We'll chuck him back on up into his team radio channel there.
Don't chuck him. Place him gently.
No, I'll throw him.
Well, he's now inherited himself that P2 because James DC came in as well too for SLM and Fishy Motorsports. Luke Speck's come back in again as well. So now he's just got Thomas up the road to deal with. He's got EJ behind him. Ethan Johnson, how's that? 21 places as well too. We're talking about that 471, gaining some serious places. Of course, he's only taken that one pit stop as well, but that's impressive. And then, of course, Josh is going to be happy to know that Ryan Palmer's just that one car further back in P4.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see here. Just we've got left under safety car. If the safety car comes in this lap, which is looking pretty likely, you'd have to think. Then, yeah, Josh Harris not going to get quite as much fuel saving as he'd like. Thomas Wilson, though, I don't think he's done himself a massive favour here, unless he's got something up the sleeve in a big way.
Yeah. How's this too, mate? I just noticed that Nathan Allen was not risking it, my friend. He's our safety car driver this evening. It is on wet tyres.
It is too.
It's a Porsche safety car.
You know what, to be fair, It's a Porsche. I would absolutely have it on wet with even the hint of moisture on the track.
Well, he's doing a fantastic job. Well, Nathan's leading another race again, of course, but he won't get any points for it. And just get the pride of throwing that Porsche around. But yeah, just played it safe. He's peeled off. We're going to get ready to go green flag racing in a second. Allowing lap cars don't lap themselves.
Yeah, so a bit of wave through starting now, which says to me that we've probably actually got another lap under safety car here, potentially. We'll see. You can see there's one of the who am I thinking? Alpine Pro. Sorry, guys. Alpine Pro Racing team entries is being way back, a long way back through the field. That'll be, I think, Adrian Bresch, perhaps. Just unlapping himself. No, Robin Long. Yeah. Just going through and unlapping himself there. Safety car pit crew were asleep.
Yeah. that helped Ronald. Remember, I said he had that. He had that moment earlier where he was parked off. He came out of pit lane and parked it off for a bit, so might have had some sort of technical issue, but thankfully he has addressed that one.
The safety car confirmed coming in this lap. We are about to go green flag racing once again. Thomas Wilson has control of the field.
I get a feeling Josh Harris is going to attack him pretty quickly on this one.
I don't think he will. I reckon...
You don't think so? I reckon
Harris has got to go fuel save here.
Okay.
But you can see he's right up behind Thomas Wilson as they come around. We're getting ready to go green. Thomas Wilson controlling it all the way to the line. Have a look at them piling up. Now, that's interesting. Ryan Palmer's
what's happened there? Just gone.
But
that might be a jump start.
I actually think, if I'm not mistaken, the control line that's relevant is back at the start there, not the actual start finish line. As we see, that's Buchanan speared off to the side. Buchanan off to the side. He's rejoined there at the back of the pack.
Kind of looked like as well too. Might have got into each other, but that's right. That could have been the biggest big brain move ever. Been a big brain maneuver from Ryan if he's got everybody absolutely sleeping.
I reckon if Ryan Palmer has read his race info correctly, he's nailed that control line, and as soon as he's crossed it, he's gone. Now, I reckon the race control radio will be lighting up here as Josh Harris starts to just allow a couple of these drivers to go through as he runs this different strategy. That's Johnson through, Brett Loxton still behind him. Now, Harris at this point will be trying to hold Loxton up to give Palmer as much space out in front as he possibly can. Ryan Palmer, though, a 2-second gap to Thomas Wilson. So a nice little start there. So that's getting confirmation here, I reckon, from the boss man and from Brian East there. Wilson just not thinking about where the control line actually was, and Palmer getting the absolute jump on 4 or 5 cars ahead of him.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go back and take a look at that one again because it was
I
a
want to see
huge
that.
move.
Absolutely.
So Ryan Palmer, watch him here. Control line goes.
Yeah, just flat out.
As
Everybody
soon
else
as he
is
knows
still
he's
waiting.
past the control line. See you later. Jumps 4 cars ahead of him. Brilliant stuff.
Through the mind of the other drivers going, oh, that's got to be. I thought it was a jump start, but no. That's pays attention to your homework.
It does, doesn't it? Jamie Dyke's still in amongst it here as well. He's on the back of Jimmy and Edie's from JTI2 Race on Oz. So don't count Dyke out just yet, but further up through the field, have a look at this. Side by side, they're coming down. This is Johnson and Loxton. Johnson's got the inside run into turn 1. Loxton's later under brakes. Johnson, a big slide. That's going to cost him. Can he get it under control? He can. Thankfully, no further incident caused, but that allows Josh Harris to sneak back through. He's bringing Thomas Hinds with him. Johnson can do nothing to close that door as McCrollan looks to come through as well.
Yeah. It's whether some of those drivers, of course, out on the freshies. They're drivers that just put those fresh dry tyres on back on lap 21. After they switched over from those wets, so they've got so much more traction and confidence in the corners. And there's driver going around, and that's Jim.
Jimmy and Edis has found himself off the track, and that's cost him a lot of position there. Oh, there you go. So the lead car must accelerate before the control line. So Thomas Wilson earning himself a penalty for that as well. So that'll be coming through from race control, I'm sure. I'm hoping we see that pushed through by race control on the broadcast here, so we get a bit of an idea of that. But I'm guessing a 5 or 10 second penalty will probably apply to that one. Be my guess without the rule book open in front of me.
Well, he'll apply that at the next stop, won't he? Or does he have to apply?
Oh, big slide there from Johnson.
Ethan's got to hold this one.
He's going to get back in managed to get back straight with a big thank you to Thomas Hinds, giving him that nudge to straighten him back out on the way through. Matt McKeer, meanwhile, in the background is side by side with Will Buchanan. And yeah, as you say that, Greg, you can see the awkward-looking nature of Will Buchanan's rear bar right now. It's a little.
Ethan Johnson's going in. I think he just doesn't like these boots.
Yeah, maybe.
He's struggling with that after all those gains that he made.
Now, to be fair, he was in on lap 1 as well. So these tyres that he's on right now, are they his original?
No, he started on wets.
Sorry, I stand corrected. It wasn't lap 1. He started on wet, so I'm not sure when he's changed over, but he's going for the new
lap
tyres
11 or
now.
something around that was pretty early.
So yeah, he's got about 15 laps out of those tyres. Maybe just a fuel situation.
The one that's doing really good, you'd have to say, is both Thomas Wilson and Josh Harris, because they've only taken that one pit stop, of course, to get rid of the wets. So they've been running pretty long. Thomas Wilson's been out on those tyres since lap 8, and he's still managing to put some quick lap times in. So they may just have been a little bit kinder on those tyres throughout
perhaps
that stint than some of the other drivers.
They a little bit of a battle group here starting to form up as Aaron Gilbert seems to be just a bit off the pace. David Coleman dispatching him fairly easily just a couple of corners ago, but Dean Power, Jared Burns, both for Black Hawk Motorsport, now closing in behind Gilbert, who's obviously carrying quite a bit of damage to the front end of that car, so that's going to be really hurting his top end speed, particularly down the main straight here at Bend. It's just letting everyone catch up. Just a 10th here, a 10th there, but it's coming around pretty quickly. And all of a sudden, we've got 4 or 5 cars just tucked in behind Gilbert. Power and Burns will be talking about this. Salhani will be looking to make a move, as will Will Buchanan, who's caught back up to 13th now. And he'll want to get moving back towards the front of the field. Ryan Palmer's lead out in front is reducing ever so slowly lap to lap, with Wilson taking about 3 or 4 tenths out each time around. But Palmer, I tell you what, from where he was sitting, he's looking pretty happy right now, I reckon.
Yeah, second time around he's been into the lead of this race and loving it out front. Henry King's gone in, Jim's gone in as well too for their pit stops. Now I wonder if that would be, that's a big stretch, isn't it, to go 40 minutes on one tank of gas.
You know what, that's actually getting pretty close. We're seeing lap times just under 2 minutes. So you're going to get 40 minutes is going to be just over. You see this group here very, very close together. Burns, Sahani, Buchanan.
Well, it's only 33 minutes. Sorry, not 40. Yeah, so they could switch it.
33 minutes means we're sub 20 laps, which means a full tank now will get you to the end. So Josh Harris has got to be thinking about when he's going to come in, as we were talking about. When is he making that stop? Really, at this point, he's just going to ride those tyres out as long as he can, until he runs out of fuel, which I reckon will probably be. With the safety car, he's probably still got another 9 laps or so in him, I reckon.
Well, and then Thomas wouldn't have that in him because he went in lap 8, 2 laps earlier. So I think
he's
that's going to be key.
Wilson's going to be getting very, very close.
Yeah.
Very
so
close.
When Thomas comes in, maybe Josh will come in about 2 laps, give or take 2 or 3 laps after him. So that'll be crucial to see on that situation. And they'll go to the end. Of course, the rest of the field still have to go in as well, you imagine.
Yeah, everyone else is, no one's making it to the end from here. I can tell you that much.
I reckon Nathan Allen can make it to the end.
Oh, well, look, Nathan Allen probably can. In time, I don't know about his finishing position, but at least in time, he'll make it to the end.
On the same tank of gas he started the race in, yes. Okay, as we're seeing this fantastic onboard there. Shot, as you can see. Oh, there's a couple of drivers going in here.
That's Gilbert, Harris and Thomas Hinz just swapping positions. You can tell Harris trying to save a bit of fuel here. He's going to tuck in behind Hinz and just take advantage of the draft. Try and stay ahead of Daniel McCrowan as well. And the gap out in front with Ryan Palmer, you can see Thomas Wilson really starting to reel him in here. Getting it down to just a half second at the moment. Brett Loxton's still 3.5 seconds back. I've got to wonder at this point, looking at the pace of Loxton, a 54.43, he is absolutely in fuel save mode at this point.
Yeah, he's that rim with this driver is doing 53s, or 33s. Wow, that's not supercars. I mean,
no GT3s maybe.
Yeah, but that's it goes to show that they're in this little stage of the race where they're just fuel saving and crunching some numbers in their head. As you can see, Daniel and Josh still at it too for now. I remember Daniel was kind of happy sitting back too before as well in that previous stint before the safety car. Not necessarily have to overtake. He may be in a situation to a little bit of fuel saving.
I'm going to try and do a few numbers here on my end as well and just see, I suppose, what's kind of possible, I guess. But call it an average lap at the moment of about 1:54. And we're pretty much at 30 minutes to go here.
I find myself an online fuel calculator for iRacing. I picture there'd be one.
Mate, I am looking at it right now.
Oh, you have one, do you?
And it looks as though you've got about 63 litres needed to get home from here. So about 3/4. Oh no, that's a puff of smoke from Josh Harris. He's popped that motor on the downshift.
Oh no.
Josh Harris has done the motor. That's devastating for the ADHD driver. He's going to have to limp it home from here if he can even get it back to the pits.
It's not even a Ford either. I mean, you know how hard it is to blow a Chevy up?
Oh, the Gen 3 supercar curse strikes again. That extra downshift, doing it so often, unfortunately, and that'll be Josh Harris. Effectively his race over at this point. He's just going to have to try and make it back to the pits. Go back and take a look and see if we can see exactly what's happened there. It's a little further back from there even. Yeah, look, a quick repair is going to help, but it's not going to be enough to keep him in it because he's a long way. I mean, turn 1 of all the places to pop your engine, the longest drive back, 4.5 Ks at this sort of pace, is going to really cost him time. And you can see him falling down the standings. Down to P13, he's going to lose a lot more yet before this is done. Kyle Ridley now looking to attack Daniel Harrod into the same corner. Deep under brakes. Look at Ridley go. Sends it up the inside. And straight back out again. You can see in the background Jackson Starrett goes through as well.
Very unfortunate. The man that we had spoken to us live on the air as Thomas Wilson goes into pit road. So there it is. So that's what we expected. And then unfortunately, we don't know when Josh Harris would have come back in, because we know he has to come back in now.
Well, yeah, it's going to have to happen, isn't it?
Yep, nursing his car back to pit lane. The very, as you said, going to go the whole distance of the track, unfortunately. At about the pace I'd be driving these cars.
Well, yeah, look, it's nice and safe. It's definitely saving fuel. We'll try and get you an onboard of this one. This is going to be tough to do, so bear with us. Let me see what I can figure out here, and see if we can catch this for you, folks. Because it's a little tricky. Unfortunately, iRacing doesn't actually pick up that you've popped a motor.
Probably best to have a look at the last overtake of when he got overtaken, and
go back just a little bit before that, I reckon. Yeah. Let's try. Let's try this, folks, and see what we can do. We'll get the. So keep in mind that the camera you're seeing on board right now is not Josh Harris in the car at this point. This is
the replay.
This is him sitting in the pits being frustrated with himself right now. Here we go. So down the main straight. I'm going to turn this up on my end as well, because I want to hear this downshift. There'll be just one extra that snaps it. Watch that gear indicator.
Yep, 6 gear, drops it down. Oh. Downshifting 2 at a time?
No, that actually looked fairly clean. That's interesting. Well, I don't quite know what to make of that.
She's cooked there.
Yeah.
Didn't go to first gear either. Just only went down to second.
Yeah.
But it did look like it shifted completely a gear there. I didn't see a third. It went from like 4th to 2nd.
Oh, I thought I picked 3rd there.
Did you?
Let's have a look. Look at that puff of smoke on the downshift. There it is. It's only mild. I think he's only just over revved it. Only just. And look, these Gen 3s, absolutely known for doing motors on the downshift. So not a massive surprise to see. And you can see Josh Harris back out on track. And if I'm not mistaken, he's right with his teammate right now, Ryan Palmer. But
Jamie Dykes
not on the same lap.
Was black flagged? Am I looking at something from race control there a little earlier?
It does look like Dykes had a drive-through, although we've not had...
That's a drive-through, I believe.
Yeah, it does look like he's had a drive-through. I'm not sure why exactly, but...
Because he pitted last lap, actually boxed at lap 21, but he just went through the pit lane. So, that is interesting. Didn't see any major off-track excursions that he had to warrant a penalty.
Look, it was back on lap 23. I've just had a look at the race control messaging in game. Looks like it was an incident on lap 23 with car. Bear with me here, folks. With car 577, which is Jim Ioannidis. So I reckon this might be this incident just here as we go back and take a look. Jamie Dyke making contact, turns Ioannidis there. So that's earned Jamie Dyke the drive-through.
There you go. And Jamie Dyke currently running in 12th place after that drive-through now. So he's got a bit of work to do to get himself back up into the top 10.
In amongst all that, Thomas Wilson has come in for that pit stop, and take a look at the damage to him. All the way back in 14th right now after running up with Ryan Palmer. So not pitting under the safety car really costing him at this stage. And
but he has the gas to go to the end.
Well, he does. He does, and there's going to have to be... There's going to have to be perhaps... He's desperately trying to do the maths here. Another 15 laps. Give or take. 21 laps, so 10 laps in. Yeah, look, Ryan Palmer's going to have to do a splash and dash out in front, as will most of the field. But the longer they can carry it on, they realistically got probably another 8 to 10 laps in the tank, which will get them to about 5 minutes short of the race finish. And they're not going to be able to save enough fuel, I don't think, to really make that up at this stage. Brett Loxton, meanwhile, really closing in on Ryan Palmer and bringing Thomas Hins with him as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, Thomas Wilson is currently 50 seconds off Ryan's lead. So if these other drivers do pit, he may be able to jump Daniel and DC. David Coleman will. He's putting in 54s in that last lap. So he's actually one of the quickest drivers, believe it or not, out on track. Running in P13 after that pit stop.
Just keeping a close eye. It always makes me wonder when I see one of the race control drivers jump into the safety car. Doesn't look like we've got any issues just for the moment. That perhaps just checking to make sure that Nathan Allen turned the motor off. Wouldn't be the first time that we've seen a safety car engine go up in flames in the pit lane because someone forgot to shut it down.
Well, Pete's confident. He's got the dry tyres on that safety car. Nathan's still got the wets. As Martin Lipsky comes in too for the Tillip Racing number 32 Ford. He's a lap down.
Loxton and Hins still fairly close together here, but Loxton really closing the gap now to Ryan Palmer. It's going to be a very interesting battle for the podium as we get towards the last 20 minutes of this race. I do wonder what the best strategy here is, because Palmer's going to lose time pretty much every lap.
I think he might not be fighting it too much. He's got 2 Team Jinx shifters coming out of 2 for now. You can see on the windscreen there, Wilson's charging at him.
He can't come in though. He's not going to be able to come in, because if he comes in now, he's still going to have to take on the same amount of fuel. I mean, do you come in now knowing that you'll get 10 laps of hard racing to the finish? That'll be just enough for your best laps on these tyres, and perhaps even a second stint. You see him trying to break. Look at the defensive line that Palmer's having to take. Yeah,
he does.
Just trying to throw Loxton off that slipstream. Bounces over the curb on the way through, re-establishes himself, shuts the door on Loxton. He's going to fight this all the way. Really pulls it up. There's contact. Palmer pulled it up hard on the apex. Kept it straight just barely, and Loxton keeps going with him. But Thomas Hins now with the opportunity. Palmer's on the inside. Have a look at this. 2 Team Jinx Shifters entries, 2 ADHD Racing entries. Even if Josh Harris is out of this mix, he is right there in support. And, it doesn't look half bad either on the screen, does it, folks?
He'd love Josh Harris to be getting in front of them right now and play a blocker, but unfortunately it's not the case. This is Team Jinx is all over the back there, Ryan Palmer. He's going to feel like he's, being bullied in the schoolyard by these 2 drivers. But he's doing his best to keep them behind him. He knows that it's not the easiest to overtake. Turn 1 overtaking opportunity is usually where they mainly get it. Not too much overtaking get done through this sector. Just got to keep a cool, calm head on him. He knows that he's been leading the majority of this race and he's up 6 places, but it doesn't matter. Essentially, in an endurance race with 20 minutes to go to necessarily lose the position, knowing that splash and dash pit stop coming.
Yeah, no, and I don't think fuel savings on the table at this point, Greg. It's too much of a battle at this stage for Palmer to risk that. Hins and Loxton really hassling him here.
What's also dangerous, of course, for the Team Jinxes is that they can come together as well.
Well, yeah, they've got to be talking about who's actually making the attempt here, because they're going side by side. Loxton thinks he's quicker, but Hins is in front at the moment, which could well be holding Loxton up, honestly.
Yeah, you need a little bit of team orders at play. They're both coming to pit right at the same time. They're almost going to hit each other.
Oh, that's a massive moment for both the Team Jinx Shifters entries. That's really interesting. That's going to cost them both time.
It will. It will.
Ryan
Who goes
Palmer.
in first in the pit box as well, too, because they're literally side by side.
Wow, that was interesting. That was really interesting that they've both gone in.
Yeah, and it looks like, I think Thomas had to actually break off a little bit there because Brett's ahead of him in the pit stall. So I don't know what's happening over there at Team Jinx.
Just
Shifters,
didn't
but
talk about that one 'cause
miscommunication. Yes.
Honestly, you'd leave one of them out on track and bring one in now and one in the next lap to split that strategy up. As it stands, they're both either going to live or die by that decision here tonight. Ryan Palmer, 8 seconds ahead of David Coleman right now. The longer he can make this last, the better his chances of a very, very quick stop. You asked earlier, who was it? Was it Greg asking earlier? Pit timers, some guys were pitted early. To give you an idea of it, well, Thomas Hinz and Brett Loxton both in and out in 46 seconds. The gap from Hinz and Loxton to Ryan Palmer right now, 43 seconds. So if Ryan Palmer can burn off just a few more laps, just reduce his pit time a little further, I mean, he's got to be tossing up here. It's almost at the point where it's not worth him going for new tyres. He just wants to take a splash of fuel and get straight back out. It's not going to be worth waiting for tyres.
Yeah. And also, we don't know if the Team Jinx shifters are still because they're battling it out. Thomas and Brett are still battling it out there, even though back in 10th and 11th now after those pit stops. So are they going to hinder themselves again?
And Loxton's still behind Hinz, which is, I'll be honest, Loxton's Palmer's in. Okay, Ryan Palmer's coming in. So let's keep a very close eye on this one. Yeah, Greg, if you fuel saved enough over the course of this hour and a half, it could be well worth it. But at this point in the race, you're not going to fuel save enough to make a significant difference if you've not already been playing that strategy. Keep going, Ryan Palmer, because all of these drivers are going to have to make a quick stop at some point. The question is, will Palmer get out ahead of Hinz and Loxton? He's in the box now.
At the moment, Hinz and Loxton are coming around to the final corner now.
Right, he's on his way out of the pit. So here's Hinz and Loxton with Jamie Dyke just ahead. Where is Ryan Palmer? He's out of the pits now. He doesn't have the pace though.
No, he's behind him. But he's going to be right on the back of him once he gets up to speed. You've got to remember too, at the moment, he's got some traffic up the road at the moment. That's not actually traffic, believe it or not. They're racing for position there. So that's Dyke.
Now, I think there's every chance that Ryan Palmer, having spent 10.5 seconds in the box, I think he's taken tyres. I think he's actually taken tyres there because I think from memory about 9 seconds for a tyre swap here on the Gen 3s. Forgive me if I'm off the mark.
We go three wide, actually, if you want to go back to that one. That's whoa, there's going to be a little bit of contact there. That's Thomas Hinz there, Jamie Dyke, Brett in there. They're trying to get past Jamie Dyke for the MC Motorsports entrance, who still get to jump back into his final pit stop as well, but it's hindering a little bit those drivers of that traffic. Luke Speck up the road there. Remember that Luke Speck started this race on dry tyres. He has to make another splash and dash, but he's up to P7.
This is all good news for Ryan Palmer though. The more they
it's
get held
perfect for Ryan Palmer. He loves it. Yeah, he's going to be.
The longer he's got for those tyres to get up temp spec out of the way. Hinz and Loxton go through. Jamie Dyke will be looking to do the same, but there's Ryan Palmer right on the back, so he's still in this. Robbie Bradbury now out in front. Let's see how much he hinders the progress here of Hinz and Loxton. He doesn't. Goes wide, lets them through, has to pull back in though. That's going to be Loxton. You can see in the background getting very, very impatient, wants to keep moving through, knows he has to here to stay in this. Hinz and Loxton now pushing hard. Jamie Dyke and Ryan Palmer want to get past Robbie Bradbury as well. Jamie Dyke up the inside. Palmer, a big nudge into the back of Jamie Dyke. He wants to get moving. Tries to push Dyke up the road and clear the way. He gets through on the inside of Bradbury now. Thomas Hinz and Brett Loxton start to pull away. Bradbury into the pits. Jamie Dyke and Ryan Palmer have a bit of work to do here. The question is, can Hinz and Loxton get to the end? Well, they will be able to. They came in on 34, so there's no question about fuel.
Going for it. Ryan throwing the dummy out there at the moment is really putting the pressure there on Jamie Dyke. But remember, Jamie Dyke's lurking that penalty.
Here we go. Yeah, Jamie Dyke has gone wide to allow Palmer through. He knows that Palmer's on fresh tyres. And honestly, a little bit of respect shown there, because I know that Palmer and Dyke had an amazing battle just 2 rounds ago. And you've got to love seeing that from Jamie Dyke. He's not trying to hold Palmer up. He knows he's not in this battle. Just really good awareness from Jamie Dyke as to what's going on the track. He knows Palmer's on fresh tyres and needs every opportunity to catch ins and Loxton ahead.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, Jamie Dyke, remember, had served that penalty before. That's why he's out of that running for the bubbly stuff at the top steps. Which you still have some of those drivers you can see up on the leaderboard, but we expecting. It'd be a miracle if we could pull that off. Actually,
I can't see David Coleman getting to the end here.
20, 21, 22, the other last lap times that those guys pitted on, 1 lap 37.
I mean, it's going to be close though. I mean, we're on track here. We're just about to complete lap 37, so we've got 13 minutes to go at just under 2 minutes a lap. So let's call it 14 minutes. We've got about 7 laps to go. You get about 20 laps out of a full tank. Some of these guys are at 15 laps right now. If David Coleman's done some exceptional fuel saving, he might make it home. But I don't think he has for the pace that he's doing. I mean, he's definitely running fuel saves. He's running 56s.
55s and 56s is what they're doing up the front. 57s actually for Jared Burns and Maddie.
They're trying really hard to make this as a single stopper. It's possible, but geez, they're going to be coughing across the line.
Yeah, on top of it, they're going to have the bunch there of Thomas, Brett, and Ryan right up them, challenging them as well too in the dying stages of that race if they are on fuel saving. In fact, come and think of it right now, Thomas he's 5 seconds down the road currently. He's going to be slicing and dicing that one from Maddie in the Alpine Pro Racing entrance very soon.
But what's happened here? All of a sudden, David Coleman's come right off the pace. The gap to Will Buchanan's just dropped a second in a matter of 2 corners.
I wonder if they've got that calculation in teams and said, okay, now you're going to have to splatter it and save yourself from another pit stop.
Let's jump
just
on board
lose
and
the time.
Just check out Coleman here. Have a listen to this. He's absolutely full fuel save right now. Coasting it through the turns. He's not at full throttle.
So that means you wouldn't be fuel saving now knowing you have another splash and dash, would you? You just want to get yourself the biggest distance. He's going to try to make it the end, right?
Look how early he's off that. Just coasting it in. Really, really short shifts there as well. He's rolling it home. He's still maintaining around that 2 second or so gap. Will Buchanan. This is where it's going to really show up, but he'll get out of the fuel saving mode down the straight here to maintain that gap.
Yeah. Oh, who's on the background almost listening in the pit lane as well. Thomas Carl Ridley. Yeah. Carl giving a little bit of entertainment. He's actually spun in the pit lane as well too.
Oh,
so he didn't hit his pit box for Carl Ridley, unfortunately.
Look, as much as I hate to do it to him, we need to go back and have a look.
We have to have a look at it. We're going to show Carl. He's gone off into that, and then I don't think he wanted to go on the pit lane at that point, but he had to.
Oh, that's a big impact. That's disappointing for Ridley. Thankfully manages to roll it out of the way, but that car is in no shape at all to
the front steering wheel's all smacked and bent. Yeah, it's a little disappointing. You don't want to see anybody have a wreck so late into this race with 10 minutes left, after a grueling endurance race. And thank you out there. People say we should have endurance races all the time. It is fun and entertaining, certainly. This one has been. Sometimes they can be a bit of a, like a Formula 1 race where you have a snooze fest in the middle of it, but this has not been.
Finally chimes in on this one.
I was waiting for Courtney to say something out there as soon as we showed Kyle.
You're killing me, Courtney. I hope you're giving him all sorts of stick for that one.
Can't park there, mate.
Now, Will Buchanan's just given that spot up to Dean Powell, so that tells me that Buchanan's fuel saving here as well. Dean Powell,
considering Ryan Palmer just at the fastest lap on the last lap. 53.4s that they're doing. The leaders are doing 57s and 56s.
Difference. Can Coleman hold in there for another 10 minutes? I mean, if he's losing, let's call it 4 seconds a lap, he's only got 20 seconds the difference between him and Thomas Hinz. So 5 laps. This is going to be really close, actually. There's about 5 laps until there's about 5 laps until the end of the race now, and about 5 laps until Thomas Hinz catches David Coleman. This is going to be really, really tight. I think Coleman might just get away with this. It's going to be so close, though.
The advantage that he's got, of course, is he's got Dean, Will, Jared, as buffers between that Thomas and Brett and the likes of have to get past. So that's what he's got on his side. He's got to concentrate on maxing the pace there. And the boss man's shootout, they said Ridley the pit entry of all pit entries. We have to call it the Ridley pit lane from now on, won't we there? Boss man.
Yeah, look, that one may just make the highlight reel, I reckon. Team Power still. So there you go. Greg's confirmed that Will Buchanan has enough fuel to make it to the end if he continues on this fuel saving strategy the same as Coleman. Okay. The question really is that gap to Hins. 20.7, 21 or thereabouts. So this is...
Now, is he going to allow Dean to come through here?
Through?
He could get fuel saving if he can tuck in behind him, but he's also giving up the P1 position in this race. So what do? You battle, but you don't have the gasoline to battle.
No, I don't think Coleman bothers because if Power...
But neither does Dean.
No, Dean
and neither does Buchanan.
Dean Power, I don't think is thinking about making this to the end. He came in even earlier than Coleman and Buchanan, so Power's going to have to do a splash and dash here. Buchanan passes Coleman.
These guys, I would say, even though you're not teammates, work together somehow to give each other a tow. They're all aware that Thomas and Brett and Ryan are all coming thick and fast, 3 seconds to 4 seconds a lap quicker. So if they want themselves to share that podium together, they've got to work together here.
They absolutely do. The gap now to Hins down to 18.5. We get into, 7 minutes to go. It's all going to be a question of where the white flag comes out. Greg, I reckon there it is. Dean Power into the pits. Dean knew it was coming.
Whoa. So he went 2 laps earlier than DC. So that means DC's got 2 laps maybe.
Well, Dean Power's pushing there though. Dean Power's pushing.
That's true.
So he's going to be going through quite a bit more fuel. The question is now, how much does Coleman have? How much does Buchanan have? Let's go on board with Will Buchanan and just have a look at just how much he's cruising here to try and save fuel. Super short shifts.
Yeah.
Big coast too.
Their gap to Thomas.
It's dropping. It's down to 17.
Yeah, 17 seconds is still quite a bit. They can afford to. Yeah. You do your math. You can afford to drop 3 or 4 seconds a lap.
And that's what we've got to keep an eye on. Right now, they're managing it at around 3 seconds a lap. So they're on track. Buchanan and Coleman have this worked out pretty nicely at the moment. You can hear just how little Buchanan's actually giving this car at the moment, just to try and get home on the fuel that he's got.
Yeah, this could be fantastic for them, but got to make sure that they don't come into each other, of course. They don't want to be battling each other too much as well, too, burning that fuel.
Now, what's going on with Jared Burns here? He's running a pretty similar strategy. He's running 156, so he's trying for a bit of a fuel save here. He pitted the same time as Will Buchanan. So he's actually, I mean, it looks like he's pushing pretty hard, but that's more the age of the tyres than anything. He's about 20 laps into these tyres. If we jump on board here as well with Burns.
Thomas, yeah, and Thomas and Brett's pushing Thomas along. Thomas, and they're just absolutely... They got to put the fastest laps of this race in. Every single lap should be a purple for these two drivers currently at the moment. They want to get themselves onto that podium.
Yeah, they're going to have to do a lot more than they are, though. They're running high 53s at the moment.
Oh, Jared's come in.
He can't do it.
Couldn't stretch it. That's going to leave now Will and DC. They're going to be close on that one. Let's have a look at what the times are as Thomas and Brett cross the line. These boys want to be getting that down low.
Thomas Hins effectively at 154. David Coleman at 158. Will Buchanan at 156. So Buchanan looks like he's managed his fuel really nicely if he can stretch to the end on that. The gap of 4 seconds for Coleman. 4 seconds a lap. We've probably got, 125. So we've probably got maybe 3 laps in it. So he needs about 12 seconds gap. He's got 11 and a half. This is going to be so tight. I reckon Coleman just might sneak a second place out of this, and that would be phenomenal at this point. Ryan Palmer in the background just doesn't have the pace to stick with these guys right now. He's about 4/10 slower. So whether he's not taking quite enough fuel and has found himself just a little bit shorter than he thought he would on fuel, or whether he just doesn't have the pace of Hins and Loxton, hard to say. These guys are both very, very quick in their own right.
Yeah, some late pit stops there from Jim as well too, so he's going to drop him down the order there. He's coming in from P15. It's only late 53s that Thomas and Brett are doing. I would have thought that they would be getting mid 53s, closest to their personal bests if they're pushing it absolutely like crazy.
You can hear the difference though in the engine note there, just how hard Loxton's pushing compared to Coleman and Buchanan at the same kind of section of the track. The gap now to Coleman down to 8 seconds and falling.
Yeah, he knows it. And he might even have a little bit of reserve too, I'd imagine, to maybe defend on the last lap of the race.
Coleman's very slow now, almost 2 minutes on that last lap.
Oh, but there's some traffic coming out of the pit lane as well too that will hinder Thomas. And Thomas had to lock up a little bit.
Oh, someone spun
we have
there.
A spinner.
That was David Coleman. That's David Coleman.
No.
He spun. David Coleman will be so frustrated. Oh,
yeah, it's potentially that's a podium thrown away, unfortunately, from DC.
That's devastating for Coleman. Look, he's still going to have a decent finish, but what could have been? What could have been?
And now Buchanan is all alone at the front there on a fuel-saving strategy while Thomas and Brett are absolutely flying.
With 12 seconds gap, he should be fine.
Yeah.
He should have this. But David Coleman, just the downshift has kicked a compression lock into those rears, and the tyres just didn't have anything left to give. It spun him around.
I wonder if he got caught up by the drivers that are coming out of the pit lane as well, too, but up the road. I think they might have been behind him and might have thrown him off in the braking point. Difficult to see.
The way that's just kicked sideways. That's definitely that shift. That's Jackson Starrett, I believe, just ahead of these drivers. So he's a long way back. He's back in 19th.
These guys need to dispose of him pretty quickly. Look at Jackson Starrett almost losing it. That's something that Thomas does not want to see in front of you, does it? Because that potential P1.
Now, do we get a white flag this time around? It's a little hard to see here because we don't actually have a flag marshal, and unfortunately,
it's a minute remaining in this race.
The iRacing coding has had some real problems with timed races with no lap limit of late. So I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain that that'll be a white flag for Will Buchanan.
My mouse didn't flash. Usually flashes the flag colours, but we're not getting those flags exactly you said.
Okay, so Hins and Loxton have gotten through. They're past Jackson Starrett now. Still almost 10 seconds up the road is Will Buchanan. This would be a great finish for Team Jinx. A 2-3, almost as good as a 1-2-3. Ryan Palmer's driven a phenomenal race. He's up 3 spots. He'll finish in 4th at this rate. Jamie Dyke, a long way behind him still. Loxton looks to get past. He really wants this P2 ahead of Hins. They're still battling it out here.
They are. Only thing is, problem right now is that they could throw away potentially that podium if they come in together. But let them race is the team order, I guess, out there for the Team Jinx shifters.
Well, why not?
We know that they're battling in a pit road, mate, side by side. So
David Coleman's into the pits. He'll be getting just a little more fuel, I suspect, and going around, or perhaps throwing it in. I don't know. I'd be pretty upset at this point if that happened.
Yeah, he had a top 10 still, but that would be very
He's got to make sure that he gets home, though, as well, right? So there is that to consider. Still 8.5 seconds the gap ahead to Will Buchanan. Both Hins and Loxton pushing hard, but their times right out to 55s here because they're getting caught up in battling each other. It's not enough. Buchanan's still doing 57s. Trent Naylor dropping in. Daniel Snedden saying hello as well. G'day, boys. Will Buchanan on. This is it. That was the final lap. The checkered flag here for Will Buchanan. He crosses the line. What a race from Buchanan. Amazing fuel-saving effort. And he comes across and takes the checkered flag. Hins and Loxton, 2nd and 3rd for Team Jinx. A valiant effort to try and pull that back, but couldn't get there in the end. And Ryan Palmer from ADHD, a very, very commendable effort I'll give it to him. He's 17 seconds further back, so he's had some issues on the way to getting there, but he will come home in 4th place. What an effort, though, from Will Buchanan. Jamie Dyke crosses the line in 5th.
The two-stopper paid off, didn't it? The two-stopper, of course, with Thomas and Brett going for the 3-stop strategy as well as Ryan Palmer. Jamie Dyke had got to remember the other 2-stopper pit-stop strategy. He just got himself that P5 position too, so he clawed his way there for the MC Motorsports entrance. The rest of the drivers mainly were on 3-stoppers. You've got to go down to Thomas Wilson. He did a 2-stopper and finished just inside that top 10.
David Coleman, the poor bloke, what could have been tonight? But a fantastic result for Team Jinx Shifters, 2nd and 3rd. Will Buchanan from Revolution eRacing, though, absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if he's going to make it back around to the pits. He looks to be trying his hardest to get there. Whether he'll get a bit of
somebody give him a nudge from behind there.
Salhani might be coming to give him a bit of a nudge along he is too.
Yeah.
So a big thank you to Salhani for being there to help Buchanan get back to the pits. It is a long drive to get back around. But what an effort from Will Buchanan. That fuel saving in the end paying off. David Coleman, honestly, the heartbreak of the night, should have been there in P2, I reckon. But
yeah, it's always so disappointing. Essentially on the penultimate lap almost, isn't it? And then you just one little brain fart moment that you have. It could have been, it's difficult, an hour and a half. And not to mention inside the practice sessions before that in the car, getting ready for this. And then you just make that tiny little error. But he should know that he was right up there anyway. So I say you take the glass half full from that you were right there for that podium. So you had it, barring that. Still can't take the pace away from the man.
No, absolutely not. We get the results through now from race control as we bring them on up for you, folks. In the end, Will Buchanan takes the full 300 points here tonight with a phenomenal fuel-saving effort at the end there to finish ahead of Hins and Loxton from Team Jinx Shifters. Ryan Palmer bringing home 4th place, then Jamie Dyke and James Salhani ahead of Dean Powell and Luke Speck. Jared Burns and Thomas Wilson rounding out your top 10. Then Bakir, Bradbury, Gilbert King and Josh Harris, the last to finish on the lead lap. David Coleman, unfortunately, a lap down. Just so close. But not there in the end. Ethan Johnson, look, a great showing from him. Probably drove a fair bit better than the 17th place really indicates from what we saw there tonight. Daniel Harrod had a decent race as well for Antic Motorsports in 18th. Jackson Starrett and Trev Mortimer rounding out your top 20. And then Trev Mortimer and Jimmy Needys just behind them. Daniel McCrowan, unfortunately back in 22nd, just didn't play out the way he had hoped. Ron Blong and Martin Lipsky in 23rd and 24th. Adrian Gresh a couple laps down. Kyle Ridley, unfortunately that car right off after that pit entry. Chris Lashbrook, the Fanatec issues fighting him there. Rian Ward out of it a long way earlier. So there'll be a bit of work to do, of course, on just resetting all of those points and looking at any penalties to apply, but a pretty solid finish all around there as we bring Thomas Hins into the booth. Thomas, how did you go out there, mate? What a race, and congratulations on the P2. Bit of battling back and forth there with Brett, I see.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, no, it's a good race actually. I hadn't driven the car around here before yesterday. Obviously, F4 was the last thing I drove around here. Yeah, so there's a little bit different to the F4, weirdly, very strange. Yeah, so just to use the quali really to try and learn the track, and if I happen to quali right, then that was a bonus. So thought I'll just got the top 10, which is good, and got the 6, which is nice, and then race start was good. First time in the wet in these things too, so that was fun, learning the car and the practice and everything. And thanks to Brett did tell me that they actually are very nice in the wet, and he's not wrong. This wet tyre on these things is pretty insane. So it actually weren't too bad. So not as bad as I feared. So just tried to sort of keep it clean early, and then it was a fun battle. Obviously, the strategy was cool. We had some strategy going on. I realised pretty early there that I wasn't going to make it, so I just kept pushing the whole time to the end. Credit to Will, though, for making that work and getting the win. That was an awesome drive from him and a few of the other guys there that looked like they did the same thing and gained bulk, so credit to them. And then managed to jump Brett in the stops, and then we had it out, and I managed to keep him at bay, which I'm pretty happy with, because Brett's he's the quick guy in the supercars. He's quicker than I am, so I'm pretty happy to hold him at Bay, there's no team orders. We always battle tooth and nail with us two. We always do. So know each other race very well. So so it was good fun to get to duel with Brett there and to come out on top. That's all bragging I can hold on to now.
Absolutely, and the battle extending right to that last pit lane entry as well. Bit of argy-bargy on the way in, mate.
Yeah, so Brett's always very, very, very aggressive on the entry. That's just how he always is. It's the worst thing doing a Jers with him because I am constantly just absolutely fearful we're going to get a drive through whenever he enters the pit lane because he just barrels in there with a billion miles an hour. So that's just what he does. But I was at that point we caught Ryan, and obviously we looked like we had a good chunk of pace on him. So I was thinking of avoiding that, but I was more looking at I think it was Buchanan at the time. Not Buchanan, McCronin at the time. Because he pitted behind just the lap before I saw, and I knew that if we kept battling, then he might be a chance. Looks like he had some penalty dramas, so he sort of ended up not being a factor. But at the time, obviously, I didn't know that, so I was a bit worried he might be a factor. But that's why I pitted, and Brett was pitting either way. And he's an old pit entry, and I'm a bit more cautious on pit entry. So he bombed it in, and he managed to avoid contact and a little rubbing in the pit lane, give a little bit of payback, give him a little bit of rub on the door to say you bugger. But no, not really. I kind of forgot the ghosting thing, how that works. But all good. So but then managed to jump him back and hold on. So good fun. Always good fun racing. Brett, as I said, we know obviously we've raced together for many, many years, so we know each other's racing style and how we drive back to front. So good fun to try and play the mind games against someone you know very well. So it's good fun.
Well, a solid result for Team Jinx all around. Either way, Thomas, a great drive from both of you, and a massive congratulations on just a stellar result for both the team and for yourself personally. It was a pleasure to watch from our perspective. Looking forward to hopefully a bit more of it to come, eh? Hopefully. I mean, I'm slowly getting the grips of these cars a bit more. It's the good thing with this series is it's actually getting me to drive these cars. I really hadn't driven them much at all before doing this series. Not because I don't enjoy driving them, I just didn't have the time, frankly, to do like Scops or any sort of series where there's a lot of, especially with any sort of really hardcore pre-quali like that. I hate pre-quali with an absolute burning passion. So I don't really have the time these days to sit there and sweat it for 6 hours a day, for 3 days to do it. So I just didn't really want to have to go through doing that, to be honest. So I hadn't really driven the car much until this series. So it's been good to be able to actually get some laps going and actually get a bit of a groove with the car. So hopefully I can actually take the fight to Brett a bit more through the season. I think he's going to have the edge on me. He always has in supercars. It's always annoyed me for years, but we'll see. Maybe we can change it in the future. Looking forward to it, mate, and hopefully an opportunity for us to chat to you again in the not too distant future. Congrats again on P2 here tonight at the Bend.
Thank you very much, Jared, and hopefully as well too.
Cheers. Thomas Hintz there from Team Jinx Shifters, taking out second position. The winner tonight with the masterful fuel-saving strategy, though. We welcome into the booth Will Buchanan from Revolution iRacing. Will, well done, mate. You made it to the end, only just on that tank of fuel by the look of things.
Yeah, crossed the line with 1 litre left. It's like 0.3 laps.
That's a good couple of turns, yep.
Mate, it was the slowest 40 minutes of driving, but most stressful as well. Just fuel saving.
We often talk about the difference between a fuel saving drive and a regular pace drive, and a lot of drivers do say that fuel saving is just so much more difficult because you're not driving at your normal full attack approach. It's actually much tougher to convince yourself to slow down. Is that pretty accurate?
Oh yeah. When you're not going at full pace, I feel like, personally, like myself, like if I'm driving slow fuel saving, I have more mistakes in me. Where at full pace, you don't think about anything. You're just trying to drive to the best of your ability. But I can understand where guys think it's a lot easier to just drive at full pace.
Fair enough, mate. Anyone you want to say thank you to? We've had a lot of support in the YouTube chat for you. Greg Brooks especially enjoying the race this evening. But anyone you want to shout out in terms of sponsors and support for the win this evening?
Yeah, just first I'd like to shout out AITT, Sudspeed, Kibby, IR Sidekick, Bunny's Builds and Shorex War, and then just all the RER boys for cheering me on, Brooksy and that. Really appreciate it.
Plenty of love for you, Will, mate. A fantastic race, a brilliant strategic drive. and certainly one that we enjoyed immensely as it started to come to a close. We'll let you get back to the team, but thank you so much for stopping in, and congratulations again on the win here at the Bend tonight.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Will Buchanan there taking the win over this 90-minute enduro. Biggles, it was a race that had just a little bit of everything right throughout, wasn't it?
Oh, it's absolute cracker, wasn't it? Once the endurance races, as we spoke during the broadcast, can sometimes get out to a little snooze moment, but these guys kept us on our toes, especially that changeable conditions at the start. They're having to start on the wet tyres. Who's taking the gamble there, like Ryan Palmer did, to come in early there, put some banker laps in, got himself out to the lead of the race there, held on to the lead for some time, of course, and then had to switch things around, and then second round of pit stops, and only the second round of pit stop, of course, for our race leader. The rest of the drivers took 3 mainly. And that's just goes to show you, and as you can see, how difficult it was also to drive in fuel-saving mode. So big congratulations, and tip the hat for a fantastic race win.
Will Buchanan's done a great job, and again, David Coleman was right there until that accident just a couple laps from the end. Let's take a look at the potential impact on the championship standings. Obviously, provisional doesn't include any fastest lap points, and of course doesn't include any drop rounds. So keep that in mind here, folks. But this is how it wraps up. The top 3 unchanged in position, but certainly changed in points. Loxton and Hinds out in front, but Buchanan looking like he may well be tied with Thomas Hinds for second place at the moment. Jamie Dyke moved up to 4th, with Ryan Palmer moving up 5 spots after an absolutely cracking round. If you're going to have a good round, this is the one you want to do at the full 300 points on offer. Thomas Wilson drops a couple of places down to 6th. James Salhani up 5. David Coleman remains unchanged in 8th. Then Gilbert, Burns and McCrowan towards the back end of that top 10. Of course, quite a bit will change between now and next week when we review this post-drop rounds, but it certainly does look like the race for the podium is very much between 3 drivers in particular, and Team Jinx Shifters showing a fair bit of dominance this season, aren't they?
Yeah, going off to a good start at the moment, and they're the ones to beat. But we'll start to bring it to them, of course, as you can see. And if Ryan Palmer continues to that uphill performance that he's doing, I wouldn't be surprised if he wouldn't be close on the tail of them as well. So
yeah, it's definitely looking close, and Palmer certainly will have improved his standing significantly in the AM Cup as a result of that as well. It'll just be a matter of waiting for the wrap-up from the stewards, of course, before we decide on the point standings with that. But that does, of course, wrap us up for another week of racing here with the Domains2U MCV8 series presented by MC Motorsport. It has been an absolute cracker of the race, and thank you so much for coming along with us for the journey, folks. I appreciate having your support in the chat. If you haven't already, do make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the action. We've got more coming this week. Tomorrow night, the simulcast here on Simple Racing Broadcast of the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercar Series. And then, of course, Thursday night, we go into the open wheelers with the F4 Championship with Formula Drivers League. Plenty of racing still to come this week. Don't miss a minute of it. Stay tuned here on Simple Racing Broadcast. A big shout out to our major sponsor, of course, Domains2U.com.au, for bringing this series to us once again this week, and really looking forward to seeing how the racing looks next week as the battle for the championship continues. Biggles, it's been an absolute pleasure having you along again. Thank you so much, my friend.
thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
And from all of us here at Simple Racing Broadcast, thank you all at home for being part of the action. Until next time, we'll keep things on the go here. Do look after yourselves, and of course remember, it's never long until we are back on the air, but until then, it is goodbye for now.